World, Florida. Dr. Narco Longo. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Magic. Welcome to Florida, baby. Florida is the original Garden of Eden. Florida has the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world. Florida oranges are the golden apples of mythology. A race of giant men once roamed this peninsula. The Smithsonian can suck my balls. Florida is littered with many ancient megalithic ship anchors, known as sacks or snags. I'm bringing Sansa back. Noah's Ark was constructed out of gopher wood. Gopher wood only grows one place in the world, Florida. Florida is the birthplace of the United States. The first Thanksgiving was in Florida. Let the black drink flow. Orange man's good. Keep his way loud in Florida.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh really? Okay.
How's everyone doing? Dr. Narco Longo.
World, Florida.
Uh-oh.
I just wanted to say I'm really excited to be here. Love you guys.
So, Dr. Narco Longo here, coming to you live from Palm Beach County, Florida, with the Florida Department of Magic. And we're going to be talking about one of America's deepest, darkest secrets, and one that we probably all drive by every single day. One that maybe we all even worked at for a short time in our lives. Certainly, a lot of us are eating there pretty often, but whatever. We're going to be talking about the great fast food conspiracy. Now, hang on. Everybody knows that fast food is bad, right? Well, this is a whole new level. This is sinister. This is orchestrated. Possibly, someone told me eugenics isn't the right word for this. That dysgenics is actually the word to be applied when people are systematically being kind of wiped out on the DL. But this story is going to take us all the way. We're going to start at around the Civil War, maybe a little earlier. Maybe we're going to reach back.
We gotta go at least 30 years earlier, yeah.
Templars and Masons, and the Order of the Lone Star is a big one. But then this is going to bring us right up into, and of course, the Lincoln assassination. The KGC is the Knights of the Golden Circle, Confederate secret society, although they had a presence in the North too.
Yeah.
And they were pretty much the Confederate Freemasons, to put it simply, although that's an oversimplification. And they were the main arm behind the assassination of Lincoln, we're told. All of Booth and all of his direct co-conspirators were members of the KGC. 4 of the 8 were imprisoned over in Fort Jefferson, Florida. And blah, 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 Civil War, KGC would somewhat unofficially go on to become the K. We got to be a little bit careful with that word. The Kaddish, right?
Yeah. Holy.
Got
They say. But basically, for the KGC, it would become the KKK. Now, that's somewhat known to historians, but it's kind of like folklore, kind of like a conspiracy theory. But I think I've done a pretty good job.
There's also, you think about the Columbus, what's it called? The Star of Columbus, right? And the Knights of Columbus. And so there's also kind of something about the Baptist Lutherans versus the Catholics. Because the French and the Spanish, particularly like Maximilian, and that's what gets into what was going on in Mexico and France, because at that point, Mexico's basically French, right? And so then Texas and Louisiana have huge alliances with the nobility of Mexico. And so those are not Protestants. So they're not Freemasons. But what does that mean when you look at the Knights of Columbus? You can kind of see the origins of the Star of Columbus and see that there's probably a tie, right?
So here we got Andreas Xirtus here of the big time VIP heavy hitter YouTube channel.
Illuminati shill, CIA endorsed, transgender approved.
I mean, hey, that's run of the mill California, West Coast, just energy. It's West Coast energy. That's just.
These are the reviews I've read about myself, just so you know.
And
nice.
But Andreas is the man when we're gonna get into decoding, fast food chain branding, pop culture, Happy Meal conspiracy, theory type rabbit holes. Like,
oh, these are just data facts, man. Like everything we're gonna say, these are all points of interest that I think anyone can cite these at home, especially once we get into the Pepsi parts.
Yes. Now, the reason we're doing this I just recently had my Knights of the Golden Circle video come out. I was, doing a poor job of summarizing what their whole spiel is, but we're gonna go back over it. My video just came out. The first half of it was pretty much the history of the KGC, their role in the Civil War, leading up to the Civil War, assassination of Lincoln, end of the Civil War, what happened to the Confederate Treasury. Most people know that Knights of the Golden Circle were treasure hunting, and movies like National Treasure, the second one, was about the Knights of the Golden Circle.
Love them.
And there was a great British, was the one the Kingsman? Isn't the sequel to the Kingsman kind of about the Knights of the Golden Circle and fast food?
Yep, that's what we're going to be talking about here. That was featured in the video a little bit, and the last portion of my video was about the fast food connections, because that has never been really touched on YouTube in presentation format. We brought the facts. This is bone-chilling information. Some of the fast food chains being connected to the KGC, and indirectly, it's an unspoken, maybe even a tip of the hat in some cases, just people proud of that history and maybe had nothing to do with them at all. But the evidence looks like the evidence points.
Yeah, there's
towards,
a lot of evidence.
Yeah, like all the K branding. This is something we're going to get into. And the KGC went to the KKK. Well, blah, blah, blah. We'll introduce the rest of our guests here. We've got Shem Jacobs from Tartarian Truth. He's going to help
Thanks
us
for having me.
decode this. He helped me. He helped me piece together.
All right, Logan.
Helped me piece together a lot of the Knights of the Golden Circle video, especially some of the Civil War history stuff. So yeah, Shem Jacobs, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Then we got Spencer from Florida down here. You know him, TikTok Hall of Famer, TikTok veteran, TikTok
Survivor, victim.
TikTok victim. Yeah.
Bandit 60, Bandit 100. Now they don't even get me. I'm on Instagram. Find me on Instagram, Spencer from Florida, and find me on here. Anytime you guys know I'm here.
Yeah. But
And they banned your TikTok. That sucks, man.
Oh yeah, it sucks. Right before launching the company too. My favorite.
Sorry to hear that.
well, you can find Spence. You can find Spence here as often as he's as often as he stops by, and he's got some interesting things in the work. He's got some Florida freeze dried. You might have to rebrand this when we're done, Spencer. You might have to do a rebranding effort by the end of this video, and maybe pull some strings.
Those aren't spores, are they? What kind of?
Those are bananas.
Okay. Which is actually the perfect. We'll save that for the segue. When he was talking about like the evidence and the data point, I think you're holding it in your hands. Like that's the big one.
Oh, okay.
Gonna hit him with a data dump.
I think I know where that's going.
Gotta hit him with that data. Yeah, it's true.
Hell yeah. So that's the crew tonight, guys.
These silly people, fancy Frito Bandito, which is also a Pepsi reference, by the way. Good job. Is asking if it was weed, not understanding the power of the banana. You soon will understand. Like you will learn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, let's get right into it. Like I said, we're going to try and really expound on the whole fast food rabbit hole angle to the Knights of the Golden Circle, because that's really untapped, uncharted territory on YouTube. And it's been kind of like a folklore in certain communities. The Black communities long thought and even written academic papers on the theory that Church's Chicken was potentially founded by the There's, of course, KFC's been associated with that because of the whole Colonel image. Colonel Sanders only wearing a white suit the last 20 or 30 years of his life. Being from Kentucky, Knights of the Golden Circle were from Kentucky. So it's hard, even to pick a point to start on. But I guess we could start out with, what did you guys know about the Knights of the Golden Circle up until now? Shem, we'll start with you.
So I just knew that they were the Confederate Secret Service, and there's not much public information about, especially who was the leadership, which you kind of highlighted in your video about the 3 different orders of membership. There are newspapers that should be reporting on these events that they had where the leadership would meet up, but it's hard to get a hold of any actual documentation unless you go to places in person, which is kind of annoying. The few books that I've seen about these people who are involved in this are usually pretty expensive, so you either have to pirate them or go the extra mile to find out. But basically, just they played a large role in the Mexican-American War as well. They were trying to, like you were saying in your video, establish the Golden Circle with, Latin America, parts of South America, just having this slave empire. And I first came across them when I learned about what happened with California at the end of the Mexican-American War, because the gold rush happened over there. So that kind of got in the way of the original plans of, it was supposed to be one slave state, one free state. Every single time a new state was added in, which ties into Texas as well. But that's where I first came across them. And then I started learning about people like Judah P. Benjamin and others who had prominent roles that you don't hear about in history in the Confederacy, because the narrative we get from the mainstream is that the Confederacy was some sort of anti-Semitic, racist cabal of people who just hated everyone who wasn't white, which is entirely untrue, a narrative taken completely out of context, doesn't make any sense. Judah P. Benjamin was literally, if not the head of the Confederacy, at least second in charge. He and Jefferson Davis would spend up to 12 hours a day together doing all this. He was the Secretary of War, Secretary of State, Attorney General of the Confederacy, the first Jewish senator, openly Jewish senator in American history. But you never hear about him, because if we talk about him, the narrative of what the Confederacy was doesn't make sense. So
great point.
So even to this day, you see, certain Jewish organizations try to distance themselves from him. But what you don't hear about him as well is that towards the end of the Civil War, which he was pressing for long before this, but towards the end of the Civil War, they emancipated the slaves in the South to fight, if they would fight into the Confederate Army. So he played a large role in that, as did Jefferson Davis. And he also sold his slaves before the Confederacy even started. So he had no interest in slaves during this entire time of serving the South. He just believed in states' rights and was fighting a different battle that we don't really hear much about. But maybe we can get more into it later, because I don't want to keep monologuing. But yeah, a lot of stuff to do with that is what I heard about them.
No, that's super huge, though. I'm glad you're bringing up Benjamin, especially because, he's not just Jewish, he was Sephardic Jewish, which is unusual. Even today in Israel, Ashkenazi Jews tend to have a classist, elite position over government. And this is true in America, too. Sephardic Jews are oppressed amongst Jews. So it's an interesting point that the Confederacy was so open to people of all races. And again, this is out of Louisiana, where they also had black governors, black mayors. There's a Lebanese community, right? I think Benjamin came from the West Indies or something. So there's all these different groups of people that were living there. It was a quilt of culture, of course.
The Haitian Revolution brought a lot of these guys, because they were part of the British Empire, and then all that stuff went down. But yeah, the reason that they came to Charleston, South Carolina, is because Charleston, South Carolina was the most free place in the United States at the time. Anyone could practice their religion freely. They had the most opportunities out of anywhere in the United States, which is part of the Confederacy.
And it's on a perfect river. There's a point, if you look at there's a great book. I think I sent you a link from Abbeville Institute from Dr. Robert Peters. He translated the story of an Austrian or a Prussian boy who came and was selling cotton bales in Charleston, and how they destroyed Charleston. And it shows how because it's a journal and diary from the 19th century, and he has the river that's flowing through Charleston, so it's the ultimate trade location. And when they decide to destroy it, they have to destroy the Star Fort. So it's also this perfect.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Which is it? New Orleans and Charleston, South Carolina, were the founding headquarters of the KGC as well.
Yeah. Although, okay, I kind of want to say a couple things there, though, because there's layers to this. We look at the idea of America versus the Confederacy, which is not really fair. It's more like there was a confederacy of many, many things that were going on. And out of it, one thing emerged and became a monolithic thing. So when we look at the Union, we look at the Yankees and everything, and we say, okay, that's a monolithic thing. That's a bit more reasonable because it's a dictatorship that is oppressing the different groups and forcing homogeny. But the Confederacy wasn't like that. The Confederacy was all about diversity, quilting of government, of culture, of different groups of people. So it's not fair to say, oh, well, this was a Confederate group per se, even though you could say like Breckinridge was a Confederate government. He was in Confederate government. But that's because he saw the continuation of the American Confederacy. That's the way America was up until the Jacksonian Democrats, right? And we look at the difference also because we think about the flipping of the conservatives and the Democrats and the Republicans, but it goes back before the 1960s. In the 1860s, we're looking at the Whigs, who were the conservatives, saying, hey, our parents built this country. And then you have Democrats saying, well, really, we should have say over our towns. We should be able to buy people if we want it. We should be able to do what we want. Whereas Republicans and anti-Masons were constitutional libertarians. And so constitutional libertarians were saying, we're going to build a system that protects our values, and we're going to enforce that in every place, that wasn't in the Confederacy. The Confederacy was okay with you doing what you wanted to do in your state or in your town. Even there was no plan that this
I don't necessarily want to romanticize it just because there is a sense of control on both sides of it, unfortunately, from a certain group of people. But it is interesting that Judah P. Benjamin was a Whig before becoming a Democrat as well, which kind of ties into the idea that maybe there was a little bit more collaboration between the North and the South to orchestrate this event than what we have public information about.
Yeah,
right
so the thing with the Knights of the Golden Circle is that when there's finally the arrest, I'm sorry, is it of not of Breckinridge, of Bickley, when Bickley's arrested, I think there's a march that goes on in the night. Everyone because there's a war going on. The Union and the Confederates all of a sudden take off their uniforms and all put on black, and they all go out together, and they start bombing the city until they free Bickley. Right. So that to me says this isn't a North or a South thing. This is a bigger thing about manifest destiny. Right. And it's already existing after, because we're thinking about the 60s, the 1860s, but the 1830s, you've got Polk and you have Jacksonian Democrats that are working towards manifest destiny. And I think we were talking earlier about the French, because Mexico we have to think of as French because it's Maximilian, it's a French empire. And so that really changes things because you have Louisiana and Texas have so many Creoles, so many Arcadians, so much French culture, that the unison there between Maximilian, which is another reason why the Jacksonian Democrats are so worried. I mean, this is why Maximilian's killed in 1867. It's a continuation of what we're calling a civil war, right?
Yeah,
sorry if that
point.
was a little
and
there.
Judah Benjamin married a Creole member of the aristocracy. So there was this weird. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And the Napoleonic Code was also still taking place in Louisiana during this time, and there's some aspects of it still today in the state of Louisiana, but. Yeah, so that's interesting points. Yeah.
That there's another part of the United States that uses Napoleonic law today, and it's anywhere that is under the Bureau of Land Management, because the way the Bureau of Land Management works is under a tribal code that allows for the authority of the chieftain, which is essentially Napoleonic law, and it's a continuation of that continental system, which is pretty crazy when you think about how that. Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit.
Which is all over. Literally all over, almost all the swampland.
Well, Albert Pike in the Golden Circle connection to the Native American tribes, and the Native American tribes to the BLM lands, right? Of course.
I have my treaty and land patent for where I'm sitting right now in the swamps in Florida that applies to Northwest Ordinance types talk.
Well,
yeah, it's real.
More information. I mean, more evidence to show that the North and the South weren't much different in their application. There's just more options in the South for other people, I guess, different types of government. Is that if you think about what was the American dream during this time period, and the North, the American dream was to work hard, save up money, start your own business so that you could hire other people to work for your company, and you pay them, and then you basically stop working. The dream sold to people in the South was, take your little piece of farmland. We'll buy some of your crops. Eventually, if you save up enough money, you can buy your first slave. Then you can buy your next slave, and then you can have all these slaves work for you so you can stop working. So it's literally this being sold the same dream, but just a different application to getting that dream. One is through money, and the other is through slavery. Which,
But I wouldn't say, because not everyone in the South had slaves, and a lot of people in the North were
Well, that's
the same class, had, as you said, like corporations had sweatshops, and they continue to do to this day, right? So the thing is, slaves could own property in the South. Slaves could have other jobs. Slaves could go to theater and had elective and free times, and there were different rules for slaves in the South that we don't understand because we think of them the way the Virginia John Castor law was designed, which is a northern interpretation of slavery, which again comes from was he from Ghana? It's an African guy who enslaved his cousin, and then he forced the Virginia government to let him keep his. It's not slavery; that's human trafficking, right? Like
the same argument applies to the North. That's what I'm trying to say is like they were sold this lie because they were sold this lie. 75% of people in the South did not own slaves, but also you could say even more than that didn't own businesses.
You guys both drink a fucking pot of coffee before this?
I don't drink coffee.
Shem's fucking awake for the first time in a million years.
Well, I never get the chance to talk about history.
This is true. Like we never talk about the Knights of the Golden Circle.
Let's tell people what the Knights of the Golden Circle is. Okay.
Go for it.
Well, let's keep it.
They say Atlantis is in Key West, and that Cuba is the heart of Atlantis, and that Cuba has the remnant 70,000 square miles of it, which relates the mafia Sicilian families and why the Sicilians and the Bush family wanted Cuba in the 1960s, and the Batista revolution, right? And the keeping of Cuba socialist by the CIA for the last 60 years in order to keep industrialism from finding out what's underneath Cuba.
Where do you get the Atlantis stuff? Did they openly talk about Atlantis in KGC?
Yeah.
circles?
So it's interesting is they said they wanted the Knights of the Golden Circle. The goal was to build a new Atlantis, right? So the Francis Baconian idea of a new Atlantis, and the capital of New Atlantis would be in Havana, Cuba, 90 miles south of Miami. Yeah.
The Cuba.
Dang, I haven't heard them talk about Atlantis at all.
That's the thing. So it's actually like a major. I would say that's actually a bigger deal than racism or slavery or the Confederacy by a factor of 1,000. There's so much more, and even Freemasonry. They're more into this idea of building the new Atlantis than anything else. That's actually what the whole point is about. Instead of lodges, they do use a Masonic structure, but the Masonic structure, instead of using lodges, they're using castles, right? And they're talking about forts and castles and the idea of everyone establishing kind of apotheosis of the membership so that they become like Godhead figures that will have the kids that will create the new nations underneath the Knights of the Golden Circle. Yeah, and there were black members. So that's another thing I want to say. Sorry, I know I'm ranting. But like people always say that they're just white supremacists, and that's so not correct because there were black members as well as Jewish members, as we know. I mean, in fact, there were a lot of Confederate.
Yeah, and only some states made laws to where the children of the plantation owner and like the black women or the native women wouldn't be considered free people. Only some states did that. Other states,
right? Because that's not Roman law. In Roman law, you take your father's rights, but in Virginia, they decided under John Castor to do a matrilineal that you take your mother's rights.
Where can I read, see, or hear about the Atlantis KGC?
Here, let me look that up. Atlantis, Cuba, Knights, Golden Circle.
Spencer, what did you know about them?
What did I know about the KGC? I knew very little. I tended to lean more towards the Knights Templar, Knights of Malta, and then there's so little out there that I didn't know anything more. You already named more than I ever knew about them just a few moments ago. But
so going into the video, you're pretty open-minded to what was being presented.
Oh, I absolutely loved it. And I mean, I just want to let's remember indentured servants too were everywhere. We only mentioned slavery, but everywhere, North and South, was riddled with indentured servants, voluntary indentured servants. So everyone else, slavery. There was a lot of indentured servants everywhere, North and South. And
here's a link.
Symbiotic relationship between the two you guys were talking about earlier. I can absolutely see a necessity, to be in cahoots just because of the Southland, all the farmland, all the fertile land. you know, you need each other. You need the North for the manufacturing, you need the South for the production and the farming. So it's like I think there's always going to be bankers and oligarchs, you know, teamed up behind the scenes funding both sides just so everything can keep moving.
That's why a lot of these guys who are high up in the Confederacy got off scot-free after the war, is because they belong to the same little group, basically, or theoretically they did, right? But
well, they had a lot of Indians in the KGC. That was one of the big elements, was, you know, the star and crescent being used together. You actually see that on the Muskogee Confederacy, the flag of the Muskogee Confederacy around the time of the Civil War. They had the Lone Star and the crescent, which could be a crescent moon. It's probably Venus through a telescope, which is also a crescent. And that's the Columbian star, like Andreas mentioned. The top degree of the Knights of the Golden Circle was known either as the Order of the Columbian Star or the Knights of the Columbian Star. And another thing for the KGC is, you know, when the war broke out, you had, like we were saying earlier, you had Protestants, you had Catholics, you had crypto, whatever, you had, you know, people all over. Both groups kind of had to assimilate into the KGC. So that's why by the end of the Civil War, they're wearing like Catholic colors, Knights of Malta style colors. They have the, what are they called? Capirote, right? The
Spanish.
The hood and stuff. We're going to get into why the K would end up wearing the hood too.
There's also the Moorish connection, right? Because they're dealing with that part of Spain where they were conquering, like when Spanish wear those hoods, and they still do this, right? Like if you go in Spain, they do that annually as in a festival, and everyone from America gets confused. But for them, they're like, no, this is how we kept out the Moors. This is how we reoccupied this part of Spain from the Arabs. And so that's really interesting as well, because if you think about what that says about the Knights of the Golden Circle in the Caribbean, they're saying essentially that the triangular trade network has existed forever, and it used to belong to Sephardic and Moorish traders, and God knows how long further back it goes, because it probably goes back maybe even to pre-human times, right? This trade network is just currents.
Mm-hmm. True.
Skip. What is that?
What
do you got here?
This is the Golden Circle. Something I didn't go into the video too much is, you know, on this channel, I've been talking a lot about the Gulf of Mexico being a potential true fertile crescent. It's fertile, crescent shaped. The archaeology matches up. The latitude matches up with this in the original, you know, fake Garden of Eden out in the Middle East. All this stuff. So I hadn't ever heard about the Atlantis connections, but I had been coming closer and closer to Promised Land, Garden of Eden concepts, like we were talking. I'm not familiar.
The Phantom Island, right? Like right in the center of where you're pointing is where the Phantom Island's supposed to be.
A floating island in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people think that's the city of Atlantis. That the Gulf of Mexico is the bay, the inland crystal sea.
Or it's just like a
super
based giant ship, like a 50 square mile ship or something.
Yeah. Haven, Havana, good comment. And the KGC was also connected to piracy, and a lot of the Conversos, Moranos, we were talking about earlier, they were coming to Florida very early on. Florida's probably the first place that Jews landed in the continental United States in St. Augustine, 1565. I just found that out today. There were 150 people that were added to the ship before it departed. It departed from Cadiz and then landed, stopped at another port very shortly before. This is Pedro de Menendez, who came over to Florida 1565.
On the East Coast or underneath in the inside?
He made it to St. Augustine, and that's when they founded the first permanent settlement, they say, 1565. There was 150 or so crypto Jews, conversos, Moranos, people like that. And they were set up in St. Augustine that early. But a lot of the reason they were coming back, a lot of the reason they were coming to America, why they were ready to put all their eggs in that basket, was they had prophecies of the land to the west. They had prophecies of another promised land, a land that they'd have to clear out before the Messiah could come, a land that they had to settle in the west before the Messiah could fully return. And
shout out to all the Mormons.
That, like the Mormons, exactly, they honed in on the exact same part of Florida, the panhandle of Florida, the Apalachicola River area, where on this channel I've done a lot of talking about the four-headed river system attached to the Apalachicola River, how it's the exact same latitude as the two rivers of Eden over in Iraq, the 31st degree parallel north. That's the northern border of Florida, between Florida and Alabama.
And the currents go there from here.
Exactly. So all this stuff, Noah's Ark, we've talked about that.
Can I pop up the Western Sea interior pic for a second? So this, compare that. This is like what they think the world looked like before, when there's the Western Sea interior flows through. You can look it up on Wiki, and you can see, granted, this isn't perfect. This is just kind of what they think. But you can see the flow here, even to that point where Mexico and that arc, that same area there, and that major landmass would be there so far back that even with all of the craziest environmental feedback loops, those parts of Florida, like on either side, like to Louisiana to Florida, those are the major points there that would be, inhabited.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the Mormons actually, they're not even aware of E.E. Calloway and his whole Garden of Eden story in Apalachicola, Florida. But they believe that is the land of promise. And back in the 70s or 80s, they kind of made a big switch where they used to tell Mormon history down in South America, at least most of the story. And then
so basically originally it was all Heartland stuff, and then they started telling it about Mesoamerica when they found Machu Picchu. Because they're like, oh, well, this makes the most sense. But then more recently they're like, well, let's go back to the trad idea.
John Smith, he was bouncing back and forth between New York, Ohio, and then the Mormons would get set up in Utah. But when they started, that's kind of where their story ends, their mythology, their timeline. And when they started tracing that farther back, they started looking at Central America and South America as potentially being the landing site for this fleet of ships from somewhere in the Middle East, Babylon, but they were Israelites who departed and bumped into the Americas. Now, very recently, some of their archaeologists, some of their researchers, and they got a lot of money. They got a lot of big money behind their research. What is it? BYU's Mormon institution. They've got other big colleges, universities that do top-notch research. You can say it's as corrupted as the other top scientists and historians or whatever, but they have a lot of money behind what they do. Very recently they've been coming in and started looking at the Gulf Coast of Florida as the landing site for what they say is Lehigh, right? Lehigh's landing. And Lehigh brought a fleet of ships pretty much from the Middle East, landed in Florida. And they're starting to call Florida, every year, more and more of the church is putting their eggs in this basket.
They own so much Florida, it's wild. They bought a lot of land.
I've got a couple of graphics where that say they're the number one private landowner in Florida, now.
Oh, totally. No question. It's crazy. They were already, but I think they doubled their holdings in the last 10 years, which is just like maddening. Like Disney's jealous, you know?
Yeah. When you,
Scientology plays into that.
if you want to know,
everybody wants Florida, and like to your credit, you got a sexy state. You know what I mean? Like if you think about the Tree of Life and the Fountain of Youth and the center of the earth and the origin point of man and the Atlantis like rocks from the the docks of the ships. There's a lot going on in Florida. It's just you can't help it. Everybody wants to be there. The Scientology wants to buy it. Everybody's trying to take as much of it as they can.
yeah. And Apalachicola, that area has actually been one of the least developed areas to date. And if you want to know why this area is so special, it's an ice age refuge.
You have freaking dinosaurs that live there. Your alligators.
Yeah. Apalachicola, they actually, so here's a couple things that kind of line up. A lot of the Jews who are coming to America in colonial times or the Age of Discovery were hoping to kick off this new promised land, right? A lot of them were honing in on this area in the panhandle of Florida, near Tallahassee, Pensacola, parts of Central Florida, but the Gulf Coast, right there in the armpit of Florida. Now, that's crypto Jews, openly Jewish financiers of the Confederacy, people like that. People had been kicked out of New Orleans too, but they're all kind of congregating in this area very early, much earlier than you'd think people like that were in Florida. Well, then you scoot it back and look at Mormon history. Like I just said, they tell us that their people bounced into the panhandle of Florida and they called their land of promise.
I mean, basically now it's that Adam and Eve came from somewhere around north, like North Florida or somewhere in that handle, like you saw. You know,
they've been saying that.
Way. Yeah, it's now the new Heartland. The Heartland model is basically that they came from south between Missouri and Florida somewhere, and they traveled down that coastline I showed you through off of Florida, right?
Yeah.
Out of Eden, then there's a flood, then they have to leave, and then they eventually come back with Lehi from Israel, Egypt, you know.
Now there's a legend also that the people that they describe as the Hopewell, which is also who the Mormons are talking about. When you look at some of the native folklore, their stories, their myths about how their people first landed, a lot of people in the Great Lakes even, and up into the Heartland America, look back and say, yeah, we came in boats, not from the Atlantic, not down the Hudson, right? But the Gulf of Mexico. We came from the south. And the first animal we saw, and this is how they all know this. The reason they all know this is there's alligator mounds up north. Even 6,000 years ago, there weren't alligators there, but there's alligator mounds all over America. They say that this group of people, advanced civilized group of people who came in on boats into the Gulf of Mexico, the first animal they saw in all of mainland United States was the alligator. And because of that, the alligator held a special place in their mythology. Even the ones who kept penetrating farther into America and never saw an alligator again, they still had the story. Some people think this might be the underwater panther. Some people think this may have inspired various deities that tribes never saw again because they never returned to Florida, but they had this ancestral memory. Blah, blah, blah. So all these stories line up. Then you've got L.V. Edison Callaway, the guy who wrote the whole book on Florida being the Garden of Eden, our 1936 Republican candidate for governor. He was talking about the Four Rivers of Eden, the Gopher Wood, blah, blah, blah. We're talking about the KGC, but what this all ties back into is, why is this a golden circle? Why did they want the Gulf of Mexico? This plan was to take the KGC plan. Now we're talking about Civil War era. Their plan, the Democratic Party of America, their plan was to take all of the Gulf of Mexico from the tip of Florida to the tip of the Yucatan, and then to take Cuba, like Andreas was saying. Havana was going to be their capital. this international merchant capital, island nation capital would have been the Q, the bow and the Q. You could say the dash in the letter Q. And the Q, I've talked with Ben, the archivist, about the letter Q and the Q cults that there's been for a long time, not to mention, QAnon would be included in there too. The Q cults go back to a lot of these same origins, also going back to the Gulf of Mexico. So the significance of this, the spiritual significance of the Gulf of Mexico, beyond it just being a slaveholder's paradise. What's the reason for these different religious groups going there? That's just what I'm trying to bring attention to right now is my research.
Check out the star forts. The star forts in Havana and the star fort. Like, there's only a few star forts that have been discovered in Cuba. There's one in Guantanamo. There's in Santiago. There's Matazanas. The Havana one's the most impressive. But if you look at Haiti, it's like 50. It's crazy. There's just there's dozens upon dozens of them. So the more you think about the places that are supposed to be the least interesting or the least industrialized, or that they've kept, from progress because of some, political crisis or something like that, those are the places that seem to be the most important, and also places that were really important to, the Knights of the Golden Circle's plan was to expand this entire ring and then to have control, because this is the flow of traffic before air travel. Like, the entire world's going through this center. And so the future is the cappuccino economy. They're going to be in control of all trade. And that issues for them a new, which exists now, a service economy, right? The exchange economy, which is like an exchange revolution.
Yeah. And KGC was involved in the Lincoln assassination, like we were saying, officially.
Although, I would say the Pinkertons are... don't you think the Pinkertons are a little bit more suspect, right? Because they say they protect him, and then, I don't know. What do you think?
For hiding.
Well, apparently the Pinkertons had saved him from 2 prior KGC attempts. One in Baltimore, where what is suspicious is a lot of the people that they ended up throwing in jail for the final attempt weren't even involved in the final attempt. They were involved in earlier attempts that they did bring the people in to interview, like, hey, were you about to assassinate the president? And they're like, no. And then when Booth ended up pulling the trigger later, a couple of those guys got thrown in jail. Like Ferrandini, I think, was one of the guys who they were also plotting to take over DC. So they were scouting out DC, we're told. I tend to think
this, to me, makes me wonder about why the Confederacy failed. Like, if the Confederacy was so under the spell of the KGC, then they would have been a far more effective authoritarian monolithic state that would have risen up. It seems to me that the KGC is the answer to the Yankees.
Well, here's I look at the KGC like the Third Reich scientists who kept on with America after the war ended. The KGC succeeded. They won. Maybe they jumped ship at the right time with Benjamin. Judah Benjamin rode the train out to the very end, where the tracks literally ran off into Florida. They get off, they start running through the woods into Florida, towards Florida. Jefferson Davis gets caught. Judah Benjamin makes it away. Judah Benjamin makes it away and probably rendezvous with the Confederate Treasury, which did make it down to Florida. So all the money escaped.
Yeah,
all the money made it out.
And you can look at Confederate Brazil. My thought, though, is that it's not Confederate at that point, but it's worth looking at the connections between the Knights of the Golden Circle and the Banana Republic corporations. Because the Banana Republic corporations are we can't be in America and we've lived outside of America, but we still need to use America. Let's keep America a sustainable trading partner. And then we'll just make these Banana Republic states, which start before Roosevelt, maybe in the 1860s and maybe the 1870s and 1880s, even before the mock battle of Manila.
Brandon, can you click on the picture of Judah P. Benjamin where he has the wig on the British Whig. For those who don't know, he's considered one of the main financiers of the Confederacy, although you could, debate that.
He is the man.
Right. And not only was he a guy pumping a lot of money into the Confederacy, like I said, he's one of the last people that we know of to have the Confederate treasury, all the money they had left, in his hands. It made it down to the Yulee plantation. Yulee, the first Jewish senator in American history, was David Yulee. He was a Florida guy. He had a big plantation in Florida. That's where the Confederate convoy was headed at the end of the Civil War, when they hightailed it out of Richmond. Jefferson Davis and his entourage, they split up into 3 groups, or maybe a couple more. Judah P. Benjamin went off and was originally trying to make it towards Texas or New Orleans, but he ended up coming back down around to Florida. Jefferson Davis got caught in Georgia, like I said, before he could make it to Florida. So Jefferson Davis gets caught. The money is still moving. The money's still heading down to Florida. It ends up in the hands of Yulee, David Yulee, and Judah P. Benjamin, some of the first 2 Jewish senators in American history, financiers of the Confederacy. And they took it. And when you look at the flags, that's why a whole section of my video is about flags. When you look at the flags of Cuba, they won. They ended up winning. They ended up moving to Cuba. The money must have made it. The money we know went to the Bahamas. Judah P. Benjamin went back to England. It had a very cushy life, very high status from there on. He ran away with the loot.
He only wrote 2 public things after he left the United States. He only made 2 public statements about the Civil War, and one was in protest to Jefferson Davis being arrested, and the other one was claiming that he did not take the money and put it into his bank accounts in Europe. And yeah, he got away by pretending to be a French cook because he spoke multiple languages. He grew up in Louisiana or whatever and was tutoring people over there. But he went over to the Bahamas, like you were saying, and then escaped to London. But you could definitely say that the money escaped over to Europe because that was the allegations, and they issued a warrant for his arrest in relation to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Now, the coast over there in Florida is known as the 2 coasts. It's the Atlantic coast, but 2 portions of the coast over there: the Gold Coast and the Treasure Coast. That's in part because the Spanish fleet would make its right-hand turn across the Atlantic there. And that's why St. Augustine was such a hub. But also because it's one of the last places that Confederate gold was ever seen. And the Yulee family is known to have buried a good portion of it, and the rest was shipped off mysteriously. Benjamin and Yulee were the last 2 people in charge of its, where it ended up. And when you look at Brandon, if you could pull up the flag of Havana, please, or the flag of Cuba, just in general, we'll see how.
Go ahead, sorry.
This is the Confederate Lone Star, one of the Lone Star battle flags, especially, of course, Texas. It's nearly identical to the Texas flag, or it's very close to the Texas flag, identical to some early Texas flags. And I think this is the Narcisco Lopez flag, something like that. But that's an original KGC or Lone Star battle flag that ended up becoming Cuba's national flag. So what's up? Through what's his face? What was his name? Bautista, the guy before Castro.
Don't remember.
Whatever. Whoever was in
Juan Batista. Sorry.
Yeah, Batista was in charge of Cuba before Castro. Whoever was in charge before him. Then you've got communists coming around. Then you've got this big revolution, and still they're waving.
Fulgencio Batista, but his real name was Ruben Zaldivar, and so
Ruben.
That's interesting.
Ruben.
Why is there a flag with gold fringe around it?
Martial military, it's a naval. They have like a military, right? Like Cuba had.
That's a captured flag.
No, it's just that Cuba itself is a military state. right? And they even they have military that they use for humanitarian purposes, right?
Right. What I'm saying is, no matter all the ideologies that have came and went, taken over, burned Cuba to the ground, built it back up, in the last 150 years or so since the Civil War, right? You've got this flag still flying over Cuba. That tells us who's really pulling the strings. Those people who wanted Havana as their capital, their hub, must have made it there, must have gotten gotten it done. Nicaragua is much the same. There's a lot of places down in Central and South America, Latin America, the Caribbean, where their flags reveal an overt connection to the Lone Star Republic or the Knights of the Golden Circle. And it shows, and we know that tens of thousands went down to places like Brazil, Mexico, Central America, and
Bro,
they did
Papal
move in.
States. The Papal States. One dude went over there and still tried to revive the conspiracy from there. But one last thing about the more evidence for the gold escaping with Judah Benjamin is that he was riding along with Jefferson Davis until like close to the very end, and then he told Jefferson Davis, "Hey, I'm going to go over to the UK, settle our government affairs," which leads to believe that he would be taking the treasury with him. And then he said he was going to meet back up with Jefferson Davis in Texas if he was able to reestablish the Confederacy and basically continue the war from there. So it seems like the funds were given to him for that, responsibility of funding it from London.
No, the only real conspiracy theory that I entertain for the Civil War is that the financiers of the Confederacy ended the war prematurely. The South was ready to keep fighting. The South was ready. All they had to do was get that money back to another major city in the South where they could rendezvous, regroup, get that money where it was, needed, and they would have still been in the fight. That's the way they were looking at it. They weren't escaping for good. They were trying to
Well, they made some huge mistakes towards the beginning. Like, first of all, choosing the capital to be in Richmond. Judah P. Benjamin was completely against that because he knew it was too close to the north. Second, at the very beginning of the war, Judah Benjamin tried to sell either cotton or sugar, I can't remember off the top of my head, to the UK so that they could make money to be ready for the war. But everyone who was above him in the Confederacy was like, "Nah, man, it's going to be a short war. Don't worry about it," because he was trying to buy military equipment using that money to fund the war to defend themselves. But the other higher ups were like, "No, you're overthinking this. It's going to be a short war. It's not that big of a deal." So they didn't take the insight of some of these people who, knew what was going to happen for whatever reason.
Plus the espionage. I think there was definitely, again, the Confederacy did not have the uniformity necessary to be a major world power the same way the Union did. Having a dictatorship just lets things move forward in a war in a way that a Confederacy doesn't.
They pulled a World War I. It's like you're not even losing the war, right? There's just a sudden shift, and then the financial backers pull the rug out from underneath you and give their support to the other side.
Imagine you're like major plantation owners, and you're getting more and more crap, like more and more regulations every year, every generation, and finally you're like, screw it, I'm just gonna go to Paraguay. Like a lot of these guys were like, hey, I can go to another country, I can buy 50 square miles for every acre that I had, and I can start over. Why would I not do that? And it's a pretty logical thing to do.
Yeah. Now, regardless of what the true motives were, the true, agenda, blah, 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 where we want to take this is, of course, the Ka would be a unofficial offshoot of the KGC. And I've argued that that's really just a Germanization of the KGC, because the K, G, and C all make the hard K noise, can make the hard K noise in German or Germanic languages. So KGC being turned into K, K, K makes complete sense. And the fact that clan is needlessly spelt with a K kind of reveals the methodology, right? And then when you go look at the Wikipedia, it even tells you the clan is known for switching the C, hard C with a K whenever they can. And K and G both go silent they both go silent at the beginning of a word in English very often. That might have its own occult significance. And K is the 11th letter. G is the 7th. 7-Eleven, we might be talking about a little bit later. But the K, G, and K, you see the K, 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 a Germanization, a rebranding, but really the same thing. And the nail in the coffin for this is you've got golden circle, and then what does Ku Klux mean? Ku Klux means circle in Greek. So it's a circle clan. Knights of the Circle.
There's another good one here too.
It's a good connection.
Because you brought up that is a good one, but also the flag, right? Because Narciso Lopez, he was a member of the Sons of Malta, right? Isn't that a thing? And the Sons of Malta were like the origin point. Like a lot of the first members of the KKK were members of the Sons of Malta. Like the disbanded Sons of Malta had been like disfavored, right?
The Knights of Malta, I've heard, and B'nai B'rith. There's a little thing on here about
check out the Sons of Malta. I sent you a link to it. If you go to the KKK's page, it says it started as a fraternal social club inspired at least in part by the then largely defunct Sons of Malta, and it borrowed initiation rituals from the Sons of Malta. And so the Sons of Malta talks about was all over the United States, in Toledo, in Indiana, a lot of the military personnel. It was a mystical society popular in Alabama and Mobile, originally paraded on New Year's Eve and continued to do so until 1861. And then connections to, randomly, Narciso Lopez in assessing Howard's reports of Saunders' claims. It talks about Narciso Lopez being associated with the Sons of Malta. The Sons of Malta, not the Knights of Malta. So another social club.
Yeah, Narciso Lopez, that's the flag down there. Here's a blown up version. Cuban flag, it's an Order of the Lone Star flag, like we said earlier. But
this is also, I wish people would connect more. Like, there's a documentary that came out recently about the CIA trying to assassinate Hugo Chavez. And just looking at, Fidel Castro. There we go. The CIA trying to assassinate Fidel Castro, and how George Bush's family and the CIA and the mafia were their interests at the Bay of Pigs and with Cuba. And I think it's interesting to see, because again, Lopez made that flag in like the 19th century, and it took 50 years before it was adopted, but it was adopted a good 60, 70 years before it became, I wouldn't quite call it a communist country, but became like the socialist republic that was no longer under Batista. So it's also interesting that was their flag going back 100 years, right? That was their plan, to use this Lone Star flag. It kind of proves that point.
These guys were conversos. I don't know, because Narciso Lopez, is that a Kinui? Is that just like a public name? Is that not his actual Hebrew name? Because a lot of these people were, like you were saying earlier, conversos.
I think Lopez
partying coming over to America.
I could be wrong, but I think Lopez was actually Spanish. He's a Venezuelan, and I think he was from the I gotta look that up though. Because his family were in the dispute between the Napoleonic Venezuelans and the Spanish nationalist Venezuelans, right? Because Spain had been conquered by Napoleon, and the only royals left were in Venezuela. And then there was an earthquake during his childhood that happened in Caracas, his home city. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, here, just look at the good comment. Yeah, Castro and Trudeau's biological father. The left, this is an overarching
He
theme
fought
here.
for the Spanish. Yeah, he was a Spanish national. So he was against the Napoleonic, which would make him more likely to be, pretty Catholic.
The Democratic
Catholics or
left,
Jews. Be right back.
Except
The
for when
left-
Napoleon's involved, because Napoleon was pretty much... Okay. He's gone.
the left has always been the party of slaveholders, and no matter what they brand it as, they've always been this plantation mindset. The more, the better. The more votes, the better. The more people swayed to their ideals, the better. And yeah, you have the Lone Star flag of Nicaragua. You had the whole, filibuster movement, where pretty much not only was the KGC the Confederate Secret Society, they were also somewhat the modern CIA. They were the CIA of their day, starting revolutions in all the little Central American, South American, Caribbean countries, starting a revolution, instigating a revolution, pumping a lot of money and weapons, and I don't know, maybe drugs back then, who knows? But pretty much the CIA playbook. The KGC in Order of Lone Star started out. And that's probably why to this day Cuba has a Lone Star flag. Nicaragua and a lot of these countries had Lone Star flags, still have iterations of the Lone Star or Golden Circle flag. And so yeah, this is their presence all throughout the Latin America and the South. They were present in the North. Another thing that KGC was instrumental in was getting the West, like I think Andreas said earlier, the manifest destiny in the Democratic Party's eyes extended south. There wasn't a Western thing.
Yeah.
They had to really push for the Western movement in the Civil War, like right in the middle of the Civil War. They were really trying to push people out farther west because South wasn't looking as friendly of an option. And they wanted to, and they started getting native tribes to sign up for the Confederacy, which started making their progress westward a little easier. Albert Pike was the man who single-handedly met with the 5 civilized tribes: Choctaw, Chickasaw. Let's see if I get this right. Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole. Is it Cherokee and Creek? Are those the 5 civilized tribes?
Yeah.
Close enough. Close enough. The 5
If I had to guess,
civilized
that's what I'd pick.
tribes hopped on board with the Confederacy, and it was Albert Pike who signed them over.
Mm.
And then from there on, they would adopt Golden Circle, Lone Star symbolism, iconography, heraldry, but we don't know. They might have already been using that before. So they might have been worshiping Venus, of course. Nobody has a monopoly on worshiping a crescent or a star. But right when they join the Confederacy, the Muscogee Confederacy starts using what looks like an Ottoman flag, what looks like a Turkish flag or Moroccan flag, the crescent and the star. And so it seems like that's one of the biggest evidences. A lot of people say Albert Pike wasn't in the KGC or the Lone Star. To me, that's one of the biggest evidences that he was he got the 5 civilized tribes to join, and they started it. And not only that, a couple of those chiefs joined Freemasonry on the spot. Albert Pike initiated some of them into Freemasonry. And that points to me that it was all going hand in hand: the Lone Star, the Luciferian, Venus worship, and the Indians were brought into the fold, a lot of them. So then they start going west, and that's a lot of the gold pushes. The pushes for gold were whatever. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But that's the treasure hunting, and Jesse James, who was a confirmed member of the KGC. So towards the end of the Civil War, the whole people going gold crazy, that was Jesse James being at the center of it, also ties into the Confederate treasury, the end of the Civil War, the Indians being involved. And this all leads to National Treasure, right? Second National Treasure movie. So I guess we're making some progress here, but
The
jump
part
in,
in your
guys.
documentary where you brought up the deforming of trees, that was completely fascinating to me because I'd never heard of that before, but I had come across some trees like that in Ohio. I didn't know what was going on with that.
Oh, the bent trees.
That's the
Yeah,
case.
I was
Indian connection there.
Yeah,
that blew my mind.
yeah. There's a couple in the Everglades, and
I've-
apparently only the Indians know how to make them grow like that.
I've
And
seen
still grow
hundreds
strong.
of them in Georgia and Florida.
It's just interesting how on both sides of the war that you have these powerful people who have connections with prominent figures that, according to mainstream history, they should not have connections with because they were oppressed or they were such a small minority of people. Like, for example,
Right.
J.P. Benjamin had direct connection with, for some reason, the leaders of Russia, the leaders of France. The Pope almost recognized the Confederacy as a legit state because of Judah P. Benjamin reaching out to him. The leaders of the UK, and on the northern side, you have these rabbi who have connections with somehow they just have an immediate direct communication with Abraham Lincoln. Like they had the chaplain act where only Christians could be the chaplains of the army units. So when that happened at a Jewish rabbi, I forget what his name is off the top of my head. I have it in notes here somewhere. But anyways, Arnold Fischel, he had a direct connection with Abraham Lincoln. So immediately as soon as this happened, it was overturned. And later when Ulysses S. Grant issued Order Number 11, which was the only edict of expulsion in American history for Jews, which was issued by the Union. As soon as that happened, Rabbi Lilienthal and Rabbi Weiss out of Cincinnati immediately they somehow got a direct communication with a meeting with Abraham Lincoln to have that overturned immediately.
Yeah.
So why on both sides is this oppressed group able to have such high connections?
So
Right.
then-
Yeah.
Also,
We're
the telegram and train companies need to be considered too, because up to this point you don't have instantaneous communication, and all of a sudden there's this incorporated apotheosis which is happening in government where they're going to be able to be, what Rome wanted to be, what Caesar thought he could be, what the Pope. Basically, this is the Masonic Pope for the real first time, because now all of a sudden you have enough power to not just be a regional governor, but to instantaneously control multiple states at the same time, right? Like a god.
So guys, this is all great stuff, juicy, steaming hot gravy. But I did title this video "The Fast Food Conspiracy."
That's true.
We haven't even
Skip
we
that.
haven't even ordered a single goddamn nugget
But
off the dollar
I
menu
need
yet.
chicken. I need
Okay.
chicken, and I need a banana smoothie, because we're going straight to the banana.
Hit us with it. What do we got?
So we talked about the K, okay, but that's kind of where a lot of the KGC research stops off. Unless you're talking about treasure hunting, that's a whole nother thing, because treasure hunting is a big part of the KGC. What happened to all the money after the Civil War? Some of it went to Florida. A lot of it got stashed around the South, around America. And that's what National Treasure made their second installment about. Disney's National Treasure. Well, what's never really been discussed is the connection to the fast food industry. My research has shown the KGC got their hands into fast food after the Civil War, because that's exactly what a bunch of, to quote my video, what a bunch of disgruntled slaveholders would do who were seeking to maintain their lifestyle, but whips and chains were no longer an option. What would you do? You get your hand,
Well,
get your hand on the food supply. Get your hand on the food supply.
well,
and
they
get your
already
hand
had control.
wage.
They already had control of the food supply. So this is the thing. Like, you think about Theodore Roosevelt and the mock battle of Manila. So what's funny about this to me is at the end of the Civil War, all of a sudden we're saying, well, if you're going to be part of the United States, you have to be an American and you have to act a certain way, and we're going to make you be American. Whereas in the Confederacy, you could literally speak German, be Amish, or French, and black, or in Lebanese. It didn't matter. So diversity was a bigger thing. It's gone now. Mock battle of Manila, they decided that the Philippines, we're going to conquer them, but we're not going to make them part of the United States. Then they're going to have colonies. And so, boom, now you have this opportunity for products that you can sell. These families all, what did they do? They sold sugar cane. They had tobacco. They had meats and sugars. So, of course, the most logical thing for them to do is to continue selling agricultural products and having huge plantations, right?
Right. Hey, good stuff, Andreas. Shem, another Shem, you'll like this too. Now we're getting into the KFC stuff. So if you haven't been able to tell from the title, KGC would go on to at least inspire KFC. And you'll notice when KFC offers grilled chicken, they even brand themselves as KGC. Now, this might sound ridiculous, right? Come on, fast food. What is this, Alex Jones kindergarten, channel? Staring at the fast food menu and seeing the Illuminati. Well, just bear with us, okay? Because this is a lot deeper than you might think.
What's even more?
It's Easter egged in Hollywood quite a bit. But go ahead, Sean.
If you take that G that you're looking at right there and you rotate it up 180 degrees, it becomes a Fe in Hebrew, which is an F.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I never had that. But
I showed you.
KGC
I showed you one night when you were super stoned on my whiteboard. we were FaceTiming.
Probably. When Shem cracks out the whiteboard, I crack out the. No, just kidding. But KFC brands themselves as the KGC when they sponsor events like Olympics style, like athletic events.
Lord of the Rings.
When they sponsor that stuff, they almost always do it as KGC because when they have this like global presence, they want to be healthy, like KGC instead of KFC. You're sponsoring like a beach volleyball tournament. You don't want to be the fried chicken sponsor. You want to be the grilled chicken sponsor. So they really lean into the KGC when it comes to like live TV advertising. And when I was growing up, so these are some of the themes we're going to be talking about. Dysgenics, eugenics, dysgenics. The fact that this food might be particularly targeting certain people, that these fast food chains, like the slave chains, the prisoners chains, the fast food chains, might be particularly targeting certain minority groups or low-income whites for the sake of, who knows, to dumb them down, sterilize them, or worse,
Control lifespan.
population control. Yeah, lifespan
Make them sick.
control.
Bird flu.
Now, I didn't come up with that. People have thought that for a long while, that fast food is just it's pretty much like an instrument of warfare. Like its job is to kill. So I'm not the first person to think that. Don't even necessarily think that, but that's been a popular sentiment, especially among certain groups.
The war's been all around us, and it's crazy when you look at South America where people used to have 20 kids, 12 kids, 6 kids, 2 kids, a cat. Things have changed really fast. And yeah, I just, to me who lived in South America, when I think of fried chicken, I think of plantains. Because it's not just French fries. It's really common to have them served with plantains, which are kind of like starchy potato-like bananas, right? And there's like the La Catan and the Cavendish, and there's the Cachuca, I think Cachuca is one of the names. So there's a lot of like ka sound names for banana or plantain that are in like the Quechua or the Guarani languages as well. And again, the banana thing is like potassium, and there's there's neutrinos in bananas, right? So I connect them completely. The idea of, hey, we're going to control people with these foods, make them completely available. We talked earlier about Asia, how Asia's now addicted to KFC. The KFC is bigger in Japan and Asia than anywhere, right? Like at Christmas time, they don't even, like, Christmas just means KFC in Japan. That's what they do. At Christmas, you eat KFC. It's fried chicken season.
Wow. Well, Colonel Sanders, who we ought to start, mentioning here.
And thank you for your service, Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders, yeah, not a military colonel. That's an honorary title. It's almost like the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. The Kentucky governor has to make you a Kentucky colonel.
It
And
actually
they-
like sticks out more. It's like, dude, why are you doing that? Like, it's just weird, you know?
So Colonel Sanders is when he was alive, towards the end of his life, they did polls where he was the second most famous person in the world.
After
Meaning
Michael Jackson.
he's the second most recognizable, universally known celebrity in the world. Well, I've seen two different possibilities for that. Earlier in their career, Michael Jackson wasn't really like a thing. That it was Jesus Christ. That it was Jesus Christ, and then Colonel Sanders. Now, hang on here, guys, because
The Japanese connection's
gonna-
even more early, so
you're gonna find this interesting. But that makes sense for the KFC thing and the Christmas thing. But then also he was what was I gonna say?
he was the second most popular person. Had something to do with
That it was either Jesus who's more important than him, more recognizable.
John
And then
Lennon.
Towards the end of his life, it was Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
Towards more towards the however long he lived, whenever he died, Colonel Sanders. But here's another thing: we got to get to this other slide here.
There's also a weird with Colonel Sanders. There's the Kof like Hebrew letter in his head. His hair makes the Kof on the right side there. Not in this one, but in the newest version of him, like the one you just showed a minute ago.
Hey, that bow. Remember that bow tie on the girls in the fast food? Wendy, just caught that. Sorry. Remember the bow tie.
Sometimes he actually wears the letter for pi, the symbol for pi. He literally wears a pi bow tie sometimes. I don't know why. But now we need to talk about his birthday. Colonel's birthday.
I want to see the
Not many people are aware of this.
Buckethead.
And you guys know KFC is a Pepsi product that they split off Pepsi split off A&W Root Beer, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, KFC, and they created Yum Foods. And so it's a company that exists literally just to partner with Pepsi so they can sell their products through secondary market through Yum Foods, which buys their product. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
That was my first official job. I was talking about Yum Foods. Shout out.
See, if you buy or sell anything and you're wise enough to get it.
Whoa.
Tell me what you see here, guys.
Oh.
For those listening, we're looking at Harlan Sanders, Colonel Sanders's driver's license.
Wow.
And he's wearing his white suit. He's about 70 years old or something. And he's got a red background. I don't know if I've ever seen a red background on a license, but he's got 18. He's born September 9th,
7.
September
1890.
77.
He's born September 9th, 1890, meaning 9990. Now you flip that around, 666.
Bum, bum, bum.
Incredible.
Choose your team: Jesus Christ or Colonel Sanders. Can't serve both, people. Now, Colonel Sanders' 999 birthday. That's pretty interesting. Not too crazy. But when you start looking at other things, Illuminati card game, fast food chains. Would you like fries with that? Nobody has any idea what's in those secret recipes. And when they find out, they forget again. The owner of this card can automatically hide 2 exposed plots on his turn. No action is required. What else do we have? The K. And I believe these are in the same deck.
Yeah.
These are in the same deck. Because they have multiple decks for that series, that company. But you can see there too the Muskogee Confederacy. in the center at the top there. One of the earliest clan outfits on the left there. The crescent of the KGC down in the center. A flag, a battle flag, or Legion flag of the KGC on the bottom right there, which is very similar to what would become the KKK logo. And then again, top right, that's the crescent of the KGC. And you can see the red and white color scheme that they'd end up using would become integral to the fast food industry. Here, let's get through some tips here.
How many stars are in the KGC crescent? Did you happen to count them at any point? I haven't
It
counted them yet.
it would change, but they typically hover around the number 11 because it would change depending on how many states join the Confederacy. So sometimes there's 9 stars, sometimes there's 11, sometimes there's 13 stars. But 11, to go back to KFC, we go to KFC, you're going to see, what are they always talking about in their commercials, on the walls, the website? 11 herbs and spices. It's always 11 herbs and spices. 11 herbs and spices. Well, when you look at the ingredients, there's nowhere near 11 spices. 11 herbs and spices. In terms of ingredients, there's something closer to like 24 ingredients. I'm trying to pull it up here. But 11 herbs and spices, right, like they always tell us. And then if we look at the actual ingredients, sorry, give me one sec here. Surfing around.
There's food laws to where you don't have to disclose that.
Well, that's what natural flavors means. Natural flavor means it's a recipe protected. If your flavorings of certain herbs and spices qualify, you don't have to disclose a recipe.
Intellectual property type trademark stuff.
Yeah, like Coca-Cola does it, right? They don't have to tell you. They can just be like, this amount of sugar.
There we go.
Chemically checked out, it has sugar.
This is what we know is in KFC. This isn't, like Spencer said, this is not even including the herbs and spices.
Or the dinosaur DNA. I mean, come on.
The modern ingredients of KFC. Fresh chicken. I'm not sure about that.
Well, no, that's a brand word, right? Like it's capital letters. All these are capital letters.
Wheat flour, salt, monosodium glutamate, that's MSG. Spices, that's your spices. Dehydrated garlic, modified milk ingredients, dried egg white, canola oil. Here's a big one. DTPS, dimethyl polysiloxane, and TBHQ.
Q, there's that Q, baby.
Now those, TBHQ, of course, the 4 letters of God.
That's what the ladies really like, though.
The tetragrammaton, TBHQ. But that TBHQ, Tampa Bay headquarters, what's up? No. Well, so some of the chains we're going to talk about, yes. But this is already what is that, like 10 ingredients? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Let's
fair,
call it
like
10.
If you don't have dimethyl polysiloxane, then your popcorn chicken, you could probably taste like the eyeballs and the bones, right? Like you need that to make the lubrication in the machine, or else it might. I don't know. Why do you need polydimethylsiloxane? I give up.
So it's
Need.
But this is already
need. Yeah, that's not a very American thought. Want. You're right. Okay, fair enough.
This is already 10 ingredients, and we haven't even included the 11 herbs and spices.
Not to mention Jaquan's pube hairs. Or the line.
Shem's gonna get us in trouble. You have a bad experience at KFC recently or something?
I actually haven't eaten there since I was like probably 12 or 13 years old, thankfully.
True.
Yeah, I don't really recall ever.
I want to make sure you cover the Lone Star Steakhouse, directly related to KFC.
Pull it up. Let's get it pulled up.
I put in the private chat link earlier. I found it when we were talking about history.
Brandon, could you pull up Lone Star Steakhouse, please? So, guys, just,
Incredible.
hey, go check out my video if you want the linear, format of this. But basically, we're going to try and go down all the fast food rabbit holes here.
I mean,
especially the ones I didn't cover in the video. And that's one of the ones I didn't cover in the video. Circle K, I didn't really cover in the video. McDonald's, I didn't really cover in the video. Other K, Kmart, Special K, all these brands. So, guys, we're going to drop a link here in a sec. You can call in. You can call in if you can think of any letter K branded companies like Krispy Kreme, all these possible links to the KGC.
Dude.
So we're going to open up the lines.
You get the feeling Dunkin' Donuts, even though it's not a K. I don't trust it.
Right. Dunkin' Donuts. Well, it's the alliteration is another giveaway, right? It's like your Eminem, Marilyn Manson, Dunkin' Donuts.
Plus, isn't it like Halliburton or something?
I'll tell you, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts very briefly. The worst job I've ever had. Worked at Dunkin' Donuts for maybe a week.
Wow.
And gave up because I had to get a job on probation. So got caught. Got in a little trouble. Had to work at Dunkin' Donuts for a sec.
Man, there's Dunkin' Donuts in Iraq and the military base. Like, you can't trust anything that there's at the military base. Like, they must have made a deal. You're gonna wonder.
Yeah. So basically, KGC, KFC. Another thing about KFC, John Wayne Gacy was a manager of at least 3 KFCs. He married his first marriage, I believe. That family was kind of in with KFC. He got hooked up with a KFC management job. He had like no experience. He was also in a somewhat of a political organization. What were they called? Had this weird name where like everyone was a member. I think Bill Clinton was in them.
I'll look it up.
They're called like the Marcies or something. Like Andreas, you'll know this. There's like this pro-voting group, like youth group that was like the Boy Scouts for like people like graduating high school.
The Waterloo JCs?
The JCs, thank you. The JCs.
Okay, yeah.
The JCs, which is another big weird rabbit hole. Swingers Club, JC. Apparently they were swingers meetups, and that's how Casey got exposed to this stuff.
All young Republicans.
He was swinging with KFC. He would bring KFC to swingers meetings. He'd bring KFC to the JCs. He was bringing KFC to all these things that he was a big socialite, right? And he was going to all these events, and he was catering with KFC. Did you know that going back to Colonel Sanders? Did you know that Colonel Sanders catered for the Manhattan Project?
Wow, no.
KFC fed the atom bomb.
So wait,
Okay.
are these like are these better ingredients that these people are getting, or is it like the same slop that we're fed?
Dude,
Well,
because everyone's always had beliefs about mutant chickens, right? Like, that was the biggest thing that they changed Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC. Everyone's urban legend was, so they had these giant pterodactyl vulture monsters without feathers that they were. Did you hear that as a kid? That's what I heard as a kid.
No,
Just me? Just me?
Oh,
Really?
What are you talking about?
My whole life, they were like, KFC, it doesn't have real chickens. Now, I don't believe this now, per se. I think there's an in-between truth. But as a kid, I literally believed, well, KFC must have freak mutant 30, 40 pound, 300 pound chicken monsters. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because why wouldn't they? If the 80s to the 90s, they can do it. Why wouldn't they? Right?
Yeah.
In the 90s and 2000s, the fried chicken was massive. I do remember that.
There's also, just because I have ADHD and I'm sorry, there's a synchronicity here because of South Park, both with the Confederate episode where, Cartman is eating chicken and is General Lee. But later, where Cartman, because they make KFC illegal, has to smuggle KFC from out of town, right? And he's got this whole trading network for KFC, which is
Well,
like
one of
treated as
them's
a controlled substance.
South Park. One of them is Jewish. One of them is Mormon. Of course, they know about that. You know?
That's the best. That is the best review ever, right there.
So here, guys. Now that we made it to the fast food portion, James G, thanks for the $20. Your content is worth its weight in gold, my friend. Appreciate that, James G. Love your profile pic. Unearned Opinion, thanks for the $4.99. Hey, I served my Mormon mission in North Florida and Southern Alabama.
Base, bro.
Tell us what you found. Tell us what you were doing. This is for Andreas.
Travis.
Looks like.
Yeet. We love you, Travis. You're a beautiful man.
Andrea Clark Martin, thanks for the $20. Superfood Drop, thank you, Longo. You're very welcome.
Can't help but say a beautiful name, Andrea. Reminds me of my own.
Absolutely. Now,
That's the good one.
now that we're talking about fast food here,
Scroll
also
Star State.
the cooking method.
Dude, I used to eat there when I was a kid.
The cooking method for KFC is unique. They don't deep fry their chicken. They pressure cook their chicken. And interestingly, Shem and Andreas, this goes back to the Dutch merchants
Oh, wow. Interesting.
who actually learned this in parts of Africa, parts of the Caribbean, brought it back to Amsterdam, brought it back to the South.
Charleston.
Yep, where his family. Now, there's some allegations that Colonel Sanders stole his recipe and cooking method from a
Good.
line of servants or
good.
slaves.
I
black
said good,
woman.
yeah. No, the Moorish science. In other words, it's a metaphor that he studied Moorish sciences, right? He
Yeah.
studied the matriarchies, like the women's line, even, which is forbidden for men.
Oh yeah. Now the 11 herbs and spices. For those wondering, K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. So when
Oh.
you're gonna start seeing this 11, 11, 11 over and over and over again.
33.
311, 3 times 11 is 33. But the KGC, when you turn it into K, it becomes 11, 11, 11, 33, 311. So, hey guys, amber is the color of her energy. Okay. And
KFC is kind of amber, that's true.
Yeah.
But so is Coca-Cola. There's something about that. Amber is the color of her energy.
Of her energy. Like
Sophia?
Wendy.
Sakina?
Venus, Ishtar.
Ishtar, Venus.
The
North-
eight-pointed star represents
All right,
The
she's like,
goddess.
okay, boys, settle down. I heard you.
5-pointed star represents the goddess.
Longo, who pulled up that site, that link? Is that Brandon?
yeah, Brandon's got it.
Brandon, scroll down to the Lone Star picture, the building, and right underneath that, for the Lone Star Steakhouse, there's the KFC. After opening 170 Pizza Hut locations and expanding its scope to the KFC franchise, CWG and Coulter parted ways. But you see things like the prototype for Lone Star was developed by the company Creative Culinary Concepts. It's just not happenstance anymore, guys. This was a place, by the way, when I was a kid, you would go to this place and you would hand feed peacocks walking around in Brandon, Florida, in the parking lot. They were freaking everywhere.
As you do.
And go in, have a steak with your granddad, come back out. You'd get peanuts with a quarter, and you'd be hand feeding peacocks in the park.
Wow. There's something to that, right? Because peacock's like such a royal bird,
Shots,
right?
yeah, shots to the peacocks. We got a couple of them around here, thankfully.
Wow. So guys,
Good eye,
we're
Spencer.
getting into KFC, and how does this branch out? Well, KFC is one of America's first fast foods. The very first fast food in the world, we're told, fast food chain, like a burger joint, like you think of when you think of fast food. The very first one in the world, we're told, was White Castle. Now, Colonel Sanders was a Freemason. It just so happens the founders of Wendy's, Dave Thomas, was hand selected by Colonel Sanders. Dave Thomas was hand selected to run a couple KFC locations. He'd end up working his way up to the top of the company, and then he went off and started Wendy's. Now, a couple decades
With a bunch
before,
of foundlings.
yeah,
Dave Thomas Foundation, baby.
and a
Grab it.
couple decades earlier, you've got White Castle starting. Now, remember earlier we were talking about the KGC, how when they meet up, they don't meet up in lodges like Masons do. They meet up in castles. The White Castle. Right, I'll let your imagination, fill in the gaps there. But basically, Wendy's also, people think of Wendy, they think of the little girl, they think it's one of Dave Thomas's daughters. No, it's not. Her name's Melinda. None of their daughters are named Wendy. The one with the reddish hair, her hair is not that red. And her name's not Wendy.
Peter Pan.
So why they name her Wendy? Well, Wendy means white ring in Welsh.
Yeah.
White ring in Welsh. So golden circle, Knights of the Golden Circle, Knights of the Golden.
And the
Knights
red hair
of the
is like a
Circle
fiery white ring.
Exactly. And Wendy Goon.
Also, Wendy's
Not
had the
Wendy
square.
Goon.
Wendy's had the square burgers, just like White Castle had the square burgers. There's something
Yes.
about square burgers.
Well, the square burgers, Andreas, what it is these are Masonic-minded people
Crazy,
squaring.
right? What could a
squaring
square have to do
the
with
circle? They're squaring the circle, Andreas.
Well, now you're just crazy.
I need my
Nope, squaring the circle. It's true. They say
I mean,
that-
Occam's
they say-
razor, everybody. What else could it be?
White Castle did the square patties, founded by Freemasons. Wendy's did the square patties.
hand selected by the Colonel.
Dave Thomas was a Freemason too. And then who's the other one? Guys, this is the big one. Crystal with a K. Crystal. Brandon, if we could get a picture of Crystal's place.
Super mid restaurant, terrible restaurant.
Yeah, it's like
I am not familiar because I'm from the West Coast. Is this a thing? What is Crystal? Tell me about it.
It's like
Crystals it's like a truck stop White Castle. It's like a truck
Really?
stop.
Is it like Is it kind of like Sonic or?
It's exactly how he just described it. I've been there, man, on the way to the beach as a kid.
What is it? I've never Crystal meth, Crystal hamburger. What?
There's the
So
cube
listen,
there too.
Look at that logo.
I'll
Check out
tell
that
you.
logo, though.
I'll
Check
tell
out that
you.
logo, though.
You see the Q and logo?
Yeah,
the
that's
logo.
Yeah. What?
That's Venus-like. That looks more like Venus than the moon.
Well,
guys.
it's probably the solar.
Eclipse.
Well, here, hang on. Technically, it's a crystal ball.
Oh yeah, because of her story,
Yeah.
whatever.
I've seen research that it's the solar eclipse that happened in the middle of the Civil War
Oh wow.
that a lot of people point to as a turning point, blah blah blah. But I think it was 1962. They saw this. Also, a lot of the dates lining up with the creation of the KKK, KFC. A lot of them are perfectly 100 years away from each other, like 1866, 1966. Colonel Sanders was 66 when he got started. He did a suicide pact with himself. He said, if KFC doesn't take off and if I don't feel fulfilled, I'm going to commit suicide. And Colonel Sanders, you can call him the original suicide boy, right? So that's what they did.
He pulled a Flavius Josephus.
He basically reinvented himself at 66, much like John D. Rockefeller did when he moved down to Florida. And he, whatever. Okay, Crystals, spelled with a K for no reason. Crystals was started by a couple, and that couple, Brandon, if we could go to their official Wikipedia, please. Just Crystal's Wikipedia. Or Crystal with a K, Wikipedia.
Got it.
Wiggerpedia. This is Wigger. We need to go to Wiggerpedia for crystals, guys.
Dude, those things are literally notoriously in the middle of nowhere, by the way. Like no traffic at all whatsoever.
Yeah. So if you look at this, just if we could zoom in on their history, please. You're going to see here that Crystals was started by a couple who wanted to open up a restaurant, and they started with a loan. Guys, I shit you not. They started with a loan of $311.
You don't.
$311.
God, that must be so nice to. Jesus.
Do you think that's
Like,
is
just
that
imagine like how cheap that is.
So a cup
we
of
get-
coffee was 2 cents back in what, 33, right? When is it supposed to be? 32. So 33 cents a meal, 2 cents for a cup of coffee. Where are you going to find a better deal than 33 cents and 2 cents for a cup of coffee? That's just
33 is 1/3 of 100?
it's a beautiful deal.
You got a Trinity going.
I'm going to invite all of my friends to Crystal.
Don't.
Here's-
It's honestly disgusting.
Dude, I can only imagine, right? Because it's
White
basically
Castle's
like
pretty good.
a dairy. No. A dairy cow does not end up in a hamburger under good conditions. I'm just letting you know. Like, you got to be careful about those places.
I'm just saying, like, as far as taste goes.
We not just spend the last like near 2 hours talking about the Knights of the Golden Circle, or actually World War III has been going on for 100 years with the fast food? Were we not doing that? We weren't doing that, YouTube. That did not happen.
World War III with fast food. That's amazing.
Yes, Pepsi approved. Thank you, Rockefeller.
Longo, how I feel like this is far more than it's not just like gang signs throwing up. It feels more like jurisdictionally, almost like a private knowledge network system that is so out there. I feel like it's in multiple different facets, and we're only seeing this one now. I feel like this is everywhere amongst the private elite groups. This is just too much. Like, that's ridiculous. Look at that. That's ridiculous. All
For
those,
sure.
come on.
Because they do have agreements where only certain restaurants can be open in certain areas, and the same thing goes with multiple products, like whether it be an energy drink or, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like again, with Yum Foods has to sell. KFC used to sell Coca-Cola products, and they switched to Pepsi. And I think that's really interesting because you think about Coca-Cola and the Black Sun, the Knights of the Golden Circle, and the Sol Negro, the Black Sun, and the Germans and everything with Fanta in South America. That's connected as well to this, right?
Almost.
We lost
Yeah.
Spencer.
He probably said something really cool, and they were like, no.
So here we'll wait for him to
So-
jump back in. But here, I want to show you guys this Crystals 311. Brandon, see if you can zoom in on the paragraph where it says $311. Please.
Just being able to start a company with $311 is insane.
Well, I imagine after the crash of 29 and 32, $311 was probably pretty useful. It's like 311 people you could hire
Bro.
or something.
No way. Dude, if they changed the Wikipedia since my video came out, that would
What's
be
new?
crazy. That'd be
So
What's
they
the-
they
Maybe
use
it
the
was Carl's Jr. Maybe it was Carl's Jr. I could be tripping, guys.
What about Carl's Jr. with Harvey's? Yeah, because that's another interesting
well, they
one.
are using AI for some results and stuff like
Downwards pointed star, bro.
Okay, it's Carl's Jr. Sorry, guys. I mixed them up. I have eaten at neither of these, and I think in my mind I thought they were the same place.
Yeah, Carl's Jr. owns
Crystals.
Harvey's. Yeah.
Let's go back to crystals. So crystals, basically crystals.
Bring
Their
Spencer
symbol is a crystal ball. The symbol for crystal is a crystal ball. Their logo. What you're seeing is like the glimmer on a crystal ball. So, Crystal is said to have gotten their name from the owner and his wife were on a walk, and they stumbled upon a crystal ball, like a real crystal ball that was in someone's lawn as like a lawn ornament, like walking by their front yard.
This is the
And
best fast food story ever.
the wife was fascinated by the crystal ball, went over to it, had a little moment with it, got like sucked in, and said that she had an epiphany or like a sudden, vision. She was engaged with this crystal ball. She was a palantir. What are they called? Palantir, I think. And looking at this crystal ball and said, "We need to call this place Crystal. We need to call it Crystal, and it's going to be as clean as a crystal." And why they choose a K? No reason whatsoever.
Every kiss
Just-
begins with a K.
Just for flair, they said.
Yeah, right.
Now, Carl's Jr., if we go over to Carl's Jr., which I've got it prepped up, Brandon. Thank you, though. I've got it right here. Carl's Jr., another one. It's a little bit of a niche place. Not everyone's been here. But for Carl's Jr., this is what I confused with.
This is the only one I've
crystals.
actually been to of like the list of ones we've talked about. Because I remember a commercial. They were like, if it doesn't get all over the place, it doesn't belong in your face. And Paris Hilton, this was the one. This was the one that got me with. I think it was like 12. There was a $6 burger with guacamole. I'm not one for fast food, but I'm not even one for. I like propaganda, but I'm not one to be seduced by propaganda. For some reason, this plus Idiocracy, I had to try it.
Right.
Guacamole.
Carl's Jr. was founded, if I'm not mistaken, they're Freemasons too.
God, I hope
but,
so.
But check
Carl
my video.
Karcher? What's his like? Yeah.
Check my video if you want to know for sure. I did all their backgrounds and showed which ones were Freemasons. A lot of
I
them
feel
were.
like the star chicken nugget thing is kind of a dead giveaway, you know? It's like
Yeah,
the
so-
order of the Eastern chicken nuggets.
Brandon, can you look at their logo, please? If you could find their logo, Carl and Hardee's, they use the star, the lone star for their logo. So that's a giveaway. Church's Chicken uses a lone star and a golden circle. That's a dead giveaway.
Dude, don't you think you being a little bit pessimistic by saying that these stars and these crescents represent Satanism?
I don't think it necessarily represents Satanism, but it
doesn't
might
say
be
Satanism.
that there's like a group of people that loved the star. I mean, this is a
It's-
really popular logo for a lot of
It's
religious orders.
Luciferianism. It rules
Could it-
fried food too.
Could it possibly
rules-
be the eclipse that took place during the crucifixion of Jesus, or the star that was there
Well,
when
let's
he was
pop
born?
No,
let's
here.
pop the fair reference
Listen.
because we're nearly 2 hours deep. That Lucifer of Cagliari is different than Satan, and the idea of the Venus star being
Yeah,
associated
no.
with Lucifer of Cagliari is an Arianist. Okay, go ahead.
Shem just doesn't know fucking shit about shit. And also,
Yeah,
also-
Shem. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I love you, Shem. You're cool. We should do a show together soon.
So listen,
Okay.
the whole Carl's Jr. The lone star is undeniably Venus. It's Venus. 5-pointed star is Venus, whether you like it or not, whether you're calling it Baphomet, whether you're calling it a pentagram, doesn't
Oh,
matter.
it's definitely Venus.
It's
I'm
Venus.
I'm 100 with you on that.
So wait,
the-
wasn't there a
the
star when
cycles-
Jesus,
There was
when
no-
Jesus was born? When Jesus was born, was there a star?
Yeah, but you know,
Probably.
I think
That's
it's kind of
serious.
funny that when
Hang
at the
on.
beginning they
That's
say in the beginning
serious,
there's a
Shem.
day and the night, bro.
It's serious.
So how many
Probably
points
the
does
lone.
Sirius have? 6?
I mean,
What
from
are
what
the,
I've seen, it's usually like 8, but I could be wrong. The
So,
pole star.
so even though the 8-pointed star represents the goddess as
no,
well.
but it's not moving. Shem, hang on. You're so fucking.
Yeah, you're getting the
Listen,
the order of Melchizedek star
Listen,
confused. with the
Sirius
Venus star.
doesn't move.
it's a cycle.
We know
Perfect cycle.
this is gonna be a solo stream in 5 minutes. This is basically Venus takes not only Shem. We're not worried about how it twinkles and how it looks, and this is how you can
I'm
tell.
playing devil's advocate.
Shem's like, look
Venus.
at that smiley face logo. Look at that smiley face Longo.
Venus, not only are its qualities, not only do they have a 5-ness to them, right? But the path that Venus makes in the sky over an 8-year cycle, the greater Venusian cycle. It traces a pentagram in the sky. Undeniably. I know you saw this part of my video. I know you saw this. You know this. But when you're looking at a 5-pointed star, it's always Venus. Even if the person who designed it and is putting it in there doesn't know what they're doing, there's all these offshoots, all these societies who think they're Satanists or think they're doing evil,
or they think they're not. See, that's the thing. A lot of them are like, "Hey,
Sure.
we know that Satan to accuse us of being Satanist. Like we're not. We're the Venus femininity of God." I think a big part here is also the Mormons were at a time when a lot of people thought, "Hey, you have to follow the Deuteronomist tradition of only worshiping the last statue we didn't destroy of God." Right? We'd get rid of all the pantheon, no Asherah, get rid of the menorah, which represents the Shekinah, which represents the Venus and the Sophia, the Chokmah. We're not allowed to talk about any of the femininity of God anymore. Well, that was a little bit more possible to talk about to these sects and cults, and there's just books that they wrote down at that time. So it's a little bit less secret than it was in the 1600s. But I mean, at this point, it's not just like secret symbols; it's freaking logos, you know.
Mm-hmm. So Carl's Jr. is using this lone star. They've got a similar color scheme, red, white, and yellow. And their whole
my God,
thing.
CKE. Look at their. Oh, sorry. That was a spoiler, wasn't it?
Okay. Here you've got Carl Karcher. Like I said, I confused you with Crystal. $311 is what we're told. They built this fast food empire with specifically a $311 loan. Borrowed, so here, this one. Borrowed $311, which would be $6,442 today. But they're very keen on making sure it's $311. So I don't know if they asked for $311, or if that's all the bank had, that's all their friend had, or if they're just making sure to update their Wikipedia so that it forever has $311 in it. But what's even weirder is when you look at, they tagged in this extra little $15. Their combined life savings. Come on, give me a fucking break. $15 life savings. I get it, but they expect us to believe that's also $311. So they borrowed $311, and then they added on another $15, which turns out to be $311 today. Then they bought a hot dog cart. Then they go on to make Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Hardee's or hard R's? It was a very close call. Could have been hard R's.
Were they looking inward or was it the N-word? Right.
That's funny. Well, chicken, and hey guys, is this all? We're trying to show you as much evidence as we can, but at the end of the day, a chicken clucks, doesn't it? Right.
And let's not forget that chickens are so closely related to alligators.
Dude, hold on, go back to that. Go back to that. Wait, hold on, go back to that real quick. Go back.
No.
Hurry.
Okay. Oh my God.
Dude, look at this. 3,186 total locations. What's 3 plus 1? It's 4. What's 8 plus 6? 14. That's 18. 666. Holy shit, man. We just figured out everything.
Shem's going Kabbalah tard.
I think good numbers. I think, hey, it says only the wise will understand those numbers. That just means that Shem's wise. Come on.
As for Venus, yeah, Venus, this 5-pointed star, it's not Satan, it's Lucifer.
I don't know. Why Lucifer?
Hang on.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Okay.
Lucifer is probably Libra, which perfectly explains the conflation of Venus and Saturn being conflated, being confused, being associated together. When you look at Lucifer being the fallen angel, full-time Libra, false teachings, author of false teachings.
But what about Esoteric Eddie? What about Lucifer Cagliari?
That's Esoteric Eddie's one of the stupidest people on the fucking internet.
Okay, maybe a bad example. But Lucifer Cagliari, he showed up in my shirt. He showed up in my stream without a shirt. I can't really. I love him, but I'm not gonna
I
make
don't
that
know who
argument
that
right.
is.
I'm not gonna make that argument right now. But
No, Lucifer is Libra.
Lucifer or
Lucifer is
Cagliari.
Libra,
Let me
which
pull up
which trumps all science
pull up
fiction and
pull up
angelic.
pull up this wiki for a second. Indulge me. Tell me I'm wrong. That'll be okay. I'll take it if I'm wrong. All right, Lucifer Cagliari. So Erasmus translates the Bible. When he translates the Bible, phosphore, which is for Venus, is transferred as Lucifer. Lucifer is the Latin as opposed to the Greek, okay? Lucifer of Cagliari simultaneously is the name of a guy who everybody hates because he's a
Right.
major bishop. He's actually in Sicily called Saint Lucifer because they're chill with him. But pretty much everyone else was upset because of the Arianist conflict that was going on. Because there's the Trinitarians versus the Arians. So at this time, he was a Trinitarian, and they weren't really popular, shockingly. So at this point, they were like, oh, he's a Luciferian, he's a Trinitarian. So Trinitarians were called Luciferians because they were like, it'd be like saying he was a Jordan Petersonian or something like that. It's not that and so Lucifer, until that point, wasn't the word for that chapter in Isaiah. It was phosphore, right?
Sure.
So I feel like it's true what you're saying. Like everything about Venus and Saturn, that's 100%. I just take nuanced contention with the word Lucifer itself. I feel like that's not the right word. I feel like Venus,
Okay.
It sounds like a psyop.
Well, when you let's take
sure.
all the names,
Easy access.
names, and the common thread is undeniably Libra. Adam and Eve, first half of the zodiac, second half of the zodiac.
right?
Aries to Libra.
7,
Right.
11.
And
Well, there's the
the number 7 comes into this, and it further pins down Libra as the true identity of Lucifer, because serpent is indicative of the number 7, and serped, you usurped. Lucifer was the original usurper,
Septuagint.
right? You have the
Sept-
serpent, the September. That's Libra. Libra being the fallen angel, rules the fall time. It's the fall of man. It's the fallen angel, the false teachings. You fall in love. Lucifer presides over seduction, temptation, deception, lust. All these traits go back to Venus.
Falling
And
star.
especially, but if you just look at Venus, then you're going to start scratching your head and saying, well, what about Ishtar and these goddesses? Libra is a masculine sign of the zodiac, which perfectly explains why the feminine Venus is being conflated. The masculine Saturn in a masculine sign of the zodiac, which happens to be one of the most feminine signs of the zodiac. It's just also an air sign, which is masculine. So hence the gender confusion. It's a feminine energy being expressed in a masculine sign. Angel of music, that's Libra, with his lyre, with his harp, the playing, lying,
Scale.
law, scales, exactly.
Scales can
of the
represent both
snake.
genders as well.
Beautiful. So it's
Great
undeniably
explanation.
Libra is Lucifer. The word is the same. I don't care if someone else's name was Lucifer, but Luz is light. Ifer is bear or to hold. Libra means the same thing. Li means light, and Bra means light. To bear, to bring, brought. To bear something. Bra, and that's where you get the bar too.
Yeah.
So
And so does phosphore. So it is the same meaning for sure. Yeah.
Did
well,
you
the
wanna-
word fur goes back to Lucifer too. Comfort, Lucifer, fur, soft fur on an animal. Comfort, fertility, Aphrodite. These are all the Luciferian
Russians
too.
claim Venus, right? They claim that they landed on it and it's their property because they were there.
Did you want to take some calls, or
hilarious.
are we open? Are we open to a question that's kind of off topic, or?
Well, here one last
Yeah.
point about the star and Venus. Venus is Freya too. Freya, where we get Friday. Hence the emphasis on fried food. It's the most indulgent type of food. It's fatty, but it's also sweet. If that makes sense. It's fat, salty, but also sweet and indulgent. And that's Venus. That's why we call it fried food. Like Freya, like Friday. Okay, that's the whole spiel, and that's why the star, the lone star, is especially going hand in hand with fried foods. That's Venus. Fried food, soul food. Okay. So what other brands are out there? I'm going to put the link out there. Join in, call in, Spencer, let her rip on any brands that you see, K brands. You know, we don't know much at this point.
Yeah, you can just immediately start flying through all the K brands. You can type in things like just go to Google and have fun. Food logos with a star in it. Literally type out what you want and you're going to just scroll through images and just flow. But I was just kind of crossing over into other sectors and it's like, okay, Walmart used to have wall and then there's a lone star in the middle, then marked. And then I'm like, wait a second, what's the new logo? Longo and I talked about the new butthole star logo, gold star logo for Walmart. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a little golden sphincter with 5 points. So I mean, I think it crosses over into so much. And like I was saying earlier, I think it's freaking all around us. And I think everybody that's involved in the private gang sign club, and this is like private information you learn in like the basement of Ivy League school, so you don't step on other people's toes and laundromats and things like that. I think it's a lot of huge, old world laundromat, money cleaning and moving and going back and forth. There's something more with just the symbols that I'm like blown away by right now. Oh, Wendy. Remember earlier we were like Wendy. I was like, so you see the little Wendy, right? She's got the blue ribbons in her hair. Look at the Wendy's logo. Brandon, if you could pull up Wendy. I was looking at Wendy. I'm like, all right, well, what's up with all the red-haired women we have? So you got Wendy with these blue little ribbons. Now, if you were to pull up right out of the gate Dorothy from Wizard of Oz and hit images, you're going to get the blue ribbons, the red hair and the pigtails, and a blue and white dress. Alice in Wonderland, a blue and white dress. You start seeing the patterns. What is the really going on here? Almost every flag Longo had in his entire segment was, red with blue and white stripes. So, it's an obvious reference across the board. And I like the fact that they're throwing that feminine energy in there. And I also think that has to do with a lot of advanced knowledge.
We got to read the Golden Circle comic that it's based on, the Kingsman one, right?
Yeah, I never kept up with that.
Because like the girl is the redhead. Like basically, it takes place in the Cuban or some kind of Caribbean island. She's got this like fast food empire where they grind people up, and she's the redhead. Like she's basically Wendy. And there's like Wendy's like windy, like windy, like wind, like the mercurial messenger, like Mercury. Lucifer as well.
Right, like Wednesday.
Bring up my screen real quick too, because someone made a comment about this company and it fits all of the criteria you have for the colors at least. The Kraft Foods. Yeah, red, white, and blue. The logo. I have it pulled up if you want to just show it real quick.
Yeah,
nice.
Pretty interesting.
In the Walmart, so I had that Lone Star Walmart epiphany, and then the new Golden Star Walmart logo. And I'm like, what restaurants? There's always a little crap restaurant in the front. It used to be McDonald's where I live, and now it's this Charlie's Philly Steaks. And if you look at the Charlie's Philly Steaks and you look up the origins of who started it, it's like, oh, big club, Golden Stars right above the logo, and that's in the Walmart, which is also the big club, big circuit. Seems like it'd be a big old.
I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the guy that said like 7-Eleven? Oh, what was it? 7-Eleven are the only two numbers with the word even in it, and both of them are odd numbers.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's interesting.
He won the lotto. He was a numbers guy.
So what other K brands were you unearthing, Spencer, after you watched the video? You were sending me some good ones.
Basically, I was actually looking for Florida stuff, and I went into it was like a Knights. I think I was going into logistics. I was trying to find Knights in logistics because I remember going down the road and seeing Knights, and sure enough, I looked up a company, and the names were just like we just saw earlier. It was like KK or something. Oh, I was cracking up. Like, no way. And some of these companies are still being created in the 10 years ago. So this is still going on. So while you guys look at too, I'm going to try to find what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
And
No, 7-Eleven carries Disney brand food and drinks, which is pretty interesting. At least in Florida, they do.
And they're super, Japanese.
Are they?
Yeah, 7-Eleven's a major Japanese company at this point. That like you can connect the Rockefeller's Trilateral Commission to this, because at a certain point they started bringing in East Asia because East Asians created so much wealth, or like the Scottish out of Hong Kong, right? That's the big one that we'll probably at some point have to talk about ever. Although I think I'm gonna kind of get near the end here.
So you're all good, man.
But I did
You gotta
want to make
pace- you
sure
gotta
that we
pace yourself.
answered. Are we going to answer the? Is there anybody's calls or something that we're supposed to answer?
Yeah.
I saw that we had one from Moy Freestyle.
We got Paul. We got Paul in the house right now. What's up, Paul? We got Carl backstage.
Can you guys hear me?
Everyone else- Yeah, what's up, Paul?
Sir.
Or sorry, Shy Not Dog Shoes. Or it's my bad. What's up, Waterloo Bear?
You call me Saul.
What's up, Saul?
All of Tarsus.
Saul means you sold out already, right? Sold out to the Romans. Saul your soul.
Is my audio okay?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Could you guys pull up the map of Karlsruhe, Germany?
Carlsberg?
Karlsruhe.
Your connection's a little iffy.
Karlsruhe, Germany.
Carl
How do you spell that?
Stroll?
I put it in chat multiple times, Shem.
I'll bring it up, son. Yeah, 1 second.
Boston Shimmerin. Oh, he dropped out. That wasn't me. Carl, what's up? You're live. Make sure you're not looping your audio. What's up? What's up?
Yo, what's going on, brother? I didn't know if because I've talked to you before. I don't know if you remembered me. We had it was late, and it was like you and your buddy from Australia, last year or something.
Jim,
I don't know if you didn't want me to call in because last time I had nothing at all. So I don't know.
No, you're always calling. Make sure you have some headphones.
Yeah, I can. Can you guys hear me a little bit?
It's looping. We can hear ourselves.
Shit. Oh, I gotta get headphones. Ooh, shit. So it's still looping? I'll let someone else call in. Man.
That's all good.
Yo, later.
Have a
Sorry
good
about
night.
that.
What's up?
KK.
Waterloo Bear?
Yep.
Que pasa?
Is my audio loop as well?
No, you're good. We hear you. What's up?
Pull that map up. The golden circle.
Pull up the. What does it say? One more time.
Karlsruhe.
Carl Stroll. You hearing this, Brandon? You hearing this?
Spell it.
Is it Karlsruhe?
Yeah.
I have a map up of it. Hold on, I'll share it. It's on my screen right now, so I'm gonna bring it up.
Show the people.
You have such an assertive voice. Show the people.
People need to see it.
I have it brought up. If you could bring up my screen.
The map.
Here we go. We're coming.
Here we go.
Okay.
What do we got? What do we got?
Here we go. We're looking at what are we looking at? A boat launch?
It's a circle. I see the circle.
You see it, Paul?
Yep.
What are we
Zoom in
looking
on the
at?
circle.
There's gold. It's a golden circle. You can see the streets are paved in gold, like the yellow brick road.
Can you please zoom in on it, Brandon?
I'm trying, dude.
Oh, Shem. Sorry. Okay. Come on.
man.
Enough with this. Enough with the suspense.
Dude,
What are
The
we looking
pyramid.
at? Come on.
Show the pyramid. Show the old maps.
oh, I see it. I see it.
I'll see you,
Oh,
baby.
wow.
The lightning hitting the top of the pyramid.
Oh wow, yeah. Holy Toledo.
Actually, this is incredible because I was looking into something very recently about the Carlsbrook Bridge, which allegedly had 2 pyramids on it. And I've never heard about this Karlsruhe pyramid that you're talking about, which is right here apparently.
That is like the most loaded location
Wow.
overhead view I've seen like in a long time.
Yeah, let's go back to
It's
the map.
used for harnessing lightning.
I don't know about anything you're talking about, so I can't bring the old maps, unfortunately. This is the only map I could find of this area.
I see some 6s.
If you want to share a map in the
What
private
about-
chat, I can
Break it down for us, Saul. Break it down for us.
Yeah, break it.
For the stupid people like me who
Converting carbon into graphene using lightning from a man-made mountain.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. This is an old map.
One of the highest geopolymers.
No, it doesn't.
God, that's
Not high.
freaking beautiful.
Basalt.
all right.
Gee.
What about KFC?
Show
What
the
about-
old
what
map
about,
with
fast
lightning.
Food? Come on. Hit us with some fast food. You can do this in your own time. What do you want to talk about with the fast food?
Yeah, don't eat fast food.
You got any gravy on the KGC and
Is this the
secret
map?
societies who do?
God, dude.
Is this the map? Right
My
here, or
family
is it-
drew the maps for the Panama Canal. I told you that, Connor.
Yeah.
Is this the
And
map? you're
Dave
looking for?
Havana.
So okay, well at least tell us what we're looking at. Come on.
Is this the map that you're looking for, or is it a different map? I don't know what map you're talking about.
Show the lightning, baby.
How?
Bring the lightning, Shem.
You have to understand.
my
I don't know
God.
what you're I don't know what you're talking about, so I can't unless you tell me how to find it. This is the best I can do. I typed in old maps.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Well, my family minted the mark. Carve the
Alright.
die casts for coins.
All right.
Oh shit.
You have a good night, Paul. Love
See you,
man.
Paul. Thanks for bringing
Peace.
the banger. I'm gonna stare at that later tonight.
Yo, Dan KK6VDR.
Oh my God, yeah,
Make
it's
sure I'm
there.
not looping. Que pasa?
Yeah, I got my headphones on, but
What's
yeah, I would think we were on a while back with Tom Ross. You got the transhumanist, one half of the transhumanist ticket here with the VP candidate. So we're looking to get on the ballot in Tennessee and New Orleans, which has the lowest bar of entry. But anyway, yeah, I just love this stuff. This is like real Robert Anton Wilson kind of juicy Illuminati symbolism, you know. I mean, and that craft logo, if you look at it, it's like it looks like a UFO, like the UFO is doing the craft, you know. And I think, you know,
Hovercraft.
Good boy.
yeah, hovercraft. And, you know, I want to do like 2 robots holding up a sign. One says, "The end of the simulation is near," and the next robot is like, "Repeat, the end of the simulation is near." You know, like,
Well, that
but
makes
yeah,
me-
they're finding out that it looks like the universe is made of information rather than, you know, real stuff. So I guess at that point, you know, it's just like Terrence McKenna, you know, push the novelty paddle through the floor. So yeah, enjoy it while we can. I guess it's impossible for us to die. So, you know, just hold on, pilgrim.
Absolutely. That makes me think of the Rallies, another fast food chain that
Oh.
we didn't bring up yet. Was Checkers and Rallies.
And Sonic.
Checkers being
Got a K
Freemasonic, but of course the double, you know, the cover for this is the racing aesthetic. Like it's
Yeah.
racing Checkers. It's well then Rallies.
NASCAR.
Right. Now, are we talking about race cars or race mixing? Races.
Yeah, right.
Races of
Well,
human.
race is a cultural construction. It's not a real thing. We're all the human race. And I
And
like,
what type of people race?
Then when you look at
Yeah.
when you look at rallies, are we talking about rally cars or the Klans rally?
yeah.
Those type of rallies.
Well,
Checker
the Vi-
flags. Checker flags, baby.
And the Nordics raced around the world because they had that sunstone, to let them cover more ground than any other tribes. When they kind of colonized the North American continent. There's that whole northern clique, southern clique. The northern clique was worshiping these cannibalistic gods, and the southern clique were more mellow because they got more sunlight. But you live where it's cold, right? You're going to be all icy and steely and kind of murderous more. But
I agree.
no, I'm like, I like that Norway took race out of their law book. They just use unfair discrimination. They don't use the word race anymore.
True.
Because you look at when the word race was invented in the 30s, and then oh my God, the world just went down the genocide rabbit hole. So that's like,
What do you think? What do you think about the documentary, the KGC documentary? Did you watch it?
Maybe you didn't watch it.
I've been with you guys for like 2 hours. It was pretty good PowerPoint there, man. I mean,
No, I mean like the video. Did you happen to see the video?
oh, I
That the
must
stream
have,
is about?
I'm gonna have to go back and do my homework.
Probably didn't watch it, dude. Not everyone's glued to my fucking page like you are, dude.
Well, as soon as I got the notification, I'm like, oh man, Xirtus, he's cool.
It's a banger. The last 56 minutes had me like woke me back. I was like falling asleep because it was so late. The last 56 minutes stayed up another 56 minutes. It just
wow. Can you give me the link? Is that on YouTube or where do I find that?
It's the newest video, like regular video on the page.
Yeah, Knights of the Golden Circle video,
freaking
red and white cover.
kept me up till 2:30 in the morning, Longo.
So can you
Attaboy.
put like the link in the chat, and I'll copy and paste it, or I just have
Yeah,
to...
yeah. Then how about I just bring dinner up to your bedroom, and I'll tuck you in, and then I'll take your shoes.
Can you bring my slippers, pipe, and sherry? And
I've been great.
No, here I got you right here. Do you know how to use the private chat feature, or are you?
Yeah, I'm on the StreamYard private chat. I see that.
Okay, here I got you.
Save link.
All right. I just found a link, Longo, for that. What I was looking up. Sorry, guys.
There's
And
a link in there.
Oh, there's like 2 links now.
Dan, where are you calling us out of?
Lovely Ventura County, California.
Whoa.
Thousand Oaks, where I'm at. I just got the paperwork to run for city council for the 4th time. So I'm going to be running for local city council and national vice president. It's going to be a trip to,
Nice.
be the guy that keeps money out of politics, because it should be run like jury duty, man. We shouldn't have to win a popularity, nice hair money contest to make public service happen. Fucking sortition, citizens assemblies. That's where we're trying to move government toward, I think.
Brother, make California an island again. That's all I say. Make it an island again.
Yeah, well, we're overdue for that southern San Andreas section rupture, so that could be, imagine the North America without Los Angeles. If you can.
Hey, I remember there was the dinosaur guy was on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's like, so what's the dinosaur you found? What's a dinosaur you actually found? He's like, I found a whale bone in downtown LA. And I was the first comment in the entire podcast. I go, well, that's a whale bone, not a dinosaur. And they're like making fun of Eric Dubé and shit.
California.
Well, we got that Cabazon Brontosaurus. If you go out, on the I-10 through Cabazon, you can see the big plaster of Paris or concrete dinosaur.
In California. Please stop coming to other places. We hate you.
Where are you guys all from?
Places that aren't shitholes.
Florida. Yeah. Well, hey, Dan.
All right.
Appreciated
what you guys do.
You got any gravy for us on the fast food front? Fast food FF.
Who was that guy? Eric Schlosser. Remember Super Size Me? And he had to quit eating McDonald's for a month. He made a documentary. He just died recently, which was too bad.
Yes.
But
Morgan Spurlock.
Morgan Spurlock. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's kind of the patron saint of fast food. Saint Morgan of Spurlock.
Well,
we should give him appropriate shout out.
I heard he was actually in the process of making another one called Super Dose Me, where he was taking a V of every different company, 60 days in a row, he was taking a V. No, just kidding. But he was very
Wow,
pro.
it's a great
V.
urban legend.
He was very pro V. That's a fact.
Yeah.
He was up to date on his boosters. We'll just say that. And rest in peace. But
Oh, the
You know,
dreaded experimental emergency authorization V. Yeah, I didn't get that for a
hey,
second.
you mentioned
well,
Sonic.
Dan, thank you for joining us, man. We got to bring in Carl here backstage.
Hold
Thanks
that
for
thought.
calling in.
Good to see you.
Dan,
The end of the simulation is near. Repeat.
call in soon.
See you again soon.
Peace.
Peace.
We got Carl up
Yo.
in the house. How can the
Yo,
good doctor
fellas.
be of service?
Carl.
I ended up. You guys not looping anymore on that end there, fellas? Am I all set with that?
Sounds much better. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I was thinking I'm gonna just start as fast as I can with something that is more valuable than last time I called in. But I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking like Mary Kay, which is like connected to MK Ultra. Any thoughts on that kind of weird thing that happened? The psyop of older boomer women with Mary Kay makeup, where that pyramid scheme that seemed to be a little bit more.
I can't say I'm familiar. Fill us in.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. My mother totally got psyoped for 30 years with that. The whole thing is they would come by like suburbs. Like I live in Massachusetts, but it was all over the country. But they would come by, and I think like the boomers just got so cooked with high fructose corn syrup starting in the 70s, and then the whole right after like post JFK and everything that happened to the boomers. I think that the boomer mothers, most of them, because the economy was so good and they were so already like lambasted by Hollywood and all these other things. Like Mary Kay was basically it was like the original female pyramid scheme for boomer housewives.
It was very
You're-
cultish. It was very cultish. Yeah.
You're onto something for sure. Drop the link again, Longo. People are asking for the link to call in.
Strange.
Before we had the modern media to influence women to wear makeup, the celebrities back in the old days were like the royalty wearing makeup, the aristocracy wearing makeup. But nowadays, this entire idea behind women wearing makeup comes from men creating this industry to sell products to women. So they wear makeup because they think that they're doing it for themselves or to impress someone or to impress themselves, basically. But in reality, it's just them buying into the patriarchy that they claim to be fighting against by wearing makeup. Women do not own these companies. Women did not create the use of makeup. Men created that.
Yeah, I mean, no, 100%, Shem. I agree with that. Definitely the feminism thing was definitely did us so good. Now these days, it's looking great on the I'm not on like dating apps or anything, but it does seem pretty good. All the great things that feminism has brought, I just think it's really good. I feel like women are so empowered these days that it's just helping out the future generations with that. Not like it's their fault per se.
They were definitely more empowered when they didn't have to worry about paying taxes and contributing to a slave system, in my opinion. But yeah.
Get them out of the houses. What is it? I forget what that quote's from. I know it's just like a truth, but like someone said that first. It's like get them out of the houses so that you can tax them.
Exactly, but
yeah,
the main goal of like everyone's society now is to make enough money to where you don't have to work. So please, and just with that in mind, please justify how women working is liberating.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
If the American dream is to make enough money to where you're not working, you're going on vacation constantly, or you're doing arts or crafts or whatever you're doing, basically having a hobby, how is a woman working that didn't have to work before? How is that liberation? How is that freedom?
Right. Yeah, and then they're taxing the whole family, and then there's all types of neat stuff that they were able to do once they got women out of the houses for various reasons, but taxes being the first one. So, So Mary Kay, but then what about Kroger's? I know there's like a ton of K stuff, so that might be like a
Kroger.
dead end. But Kroger's, like, Kroger's.
Toast.
And then
Yeah, Kroger's a good one. We have a lot of
Favorite?
Kroger here in Ohio.
Say it one more time, Jim.
We have a lot of Kroger here in Ohio.
Yeah.
oh, you're in Ohio. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Pete.
What about you?
I was at well, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm like right outside of Boston. It's funny. I was at Wendy's earlier. I didn't see Wendy. I didn't see a woman with red hair, but I did see 5 more migrants than the last time I was there.
Oh, and transplants.
Right.
You gotta
Yeah.
go somewhere, bro.
My previously decent town. I won't dox myself, but it's in it's a little bit south of Boston. So every time now they're just filling these like it's great. I do like Uber Eats and DoorDash and stuff, and I do like deliveries. And every time I go to like the hotels, like 2 years ago, it's just you might get like you would never see a migrant, but now it's just illegal migrants that don't speak English, and the state actually bought all the hotels around where my town is, like in and around it, so that now every time I'm delivering to a hotel, it's the whole hotel is just people that don't speak English that are here illegally, which is just I'm not like gonna go like super, I'm not gonna like try to like complain like go like crazy far right, but I mean like I'm conservative and stuff, but I mean it is
It's all
wild
part
though.
of the plan. They've done it multiple
Just
times in
something.
history. I mean, look back to the era we're talking about with the Irish immigrants. It was the same thing back then. They just do it over and over again. They make false promises to people, get them to come to America. Then once those
Yep.
people start complaining and trying to get equal rights or higher wages, they bring in the next group to replace them over and over again.
Totes. Well,
Yeah.
anything else, Carl, buddy? Appreciate you calling in, man.
Nothing.
Call in sometime
Nothing,
soon.
no. No, absolutely,
Have a good
man.
night. Have a good night, buddy.
Appreciate everything you guys do. Have a good one. Later.
Appreciate it. Good night. Spencer, Andreas, Shem. We talked a good amount of fast food. Anything else you guys feel like needs to get thrown in, covered, wrapped up?
Check out where food processing places are near refineries of like raw materials, metals, lithium batteries, things like that, and see like drainage, because that's a major thing. Is that a lot of the rice, a lot of the potatoes, a lot of the food like that are monocropped are grown straight downstream, so that they're soaking out chemicals that are in the soil, so that the soil will be clean again. And that was a major part of the Codex Alimentarius, right? Is that the easiest way to process like nuclear waste is through feeding it to cattle.
Yeah,
Which we eat.
totally. Now, also something we got to talk about is the Kingsman movie. We didn't really bring that up too much, but the Kingsman movie is all about Kingsman is about like the British Secret Service, this imaginary like James Bond style, like private clandestine, group that works for the I don't know what are they Welsh or Scottish, or are they just English, British in general?
Yeah, they're like
but
MI6 agents that go back. Yeah.
what was interesting is that the main character is Welsh, the actor is Welsh, and a couple of the actors are Welsh. And Wendy, the main antagonist, being modeled after Wendy, is red-haired lady who, Brandon, if you could pull up Kingsman Golden Circle pictures, please. Just anything on Google. The bad guy from this movie was made to look like Wendy. Julianne Moore, or whatever her name is. She's the bad girl. Red hair, pale skin, runs a hamburger joint, hot dog stand, and Krispy Kreme donut place. She uses human meat in the food. She uses drugs and nanotechnology to poison the whole world. And the good guys have to travel to Kentucky to join this other secret society or infiltrate this other secret society and then take down the bad guys. But basically, it's like bad Hollywood KGC fan fiction, like, or
It's all there, yeah.
they're Easter egging, breadcrumbing, whatever you want to call it. You know.
While he's pulling that up, did you want to highlight the wages and money situation in regards to fast food? Because you haven't brought that up yet in the stream, and for some reason, people are very interested in the topic of fast food, according to the chat. You kind of highlighted it in your video, and you talked to me about it as well. The wages compared to cost of living and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of wrapping it up here, but just the idea that fast food, you know, you're only a slave to your own inability. You're only ever a slave to your own, you know, lack of willpower, courage, whatever. That being said, for most people who are just kind of getting going with the flow, going with the you know, getting corralled with the masses, you never really stand a chance unless you can see outside of the whole system. You never really stand a chance getting out of high school or working at a place like this, a fast food place. Rent is so expensive. You know, maybe 100 years ago, 75 years ago, you could raise a family on a, you know, McDonald's wage, White Castle wage. But today you don't stand a chance, and they pay you just enough to where you can get an apartment. Just enough to where you can show your pay stubs to get a little loan or whatever. But ultimately, you're trapped. You're pretty dang trapped because you'll never jump up enough to make, you know, to elevate your station. You know, you're just kind of trapped. And again, I don't want to be too much of like a victimhood thing, because ultimately anybody can pick themselves up out of working at fast food, but they make it really hard. They make it really tough. They make it tough on people who aren't that bright. And yeah, it really is like a modern day plantation. They encourage you to eat there as much as you can. They encourage you to rely on them as much as you can. A lot of them take care of your daycaring your kids and things like that. You know, benefits can be a good thing, but they can be a bad thing. You get stuck, you get trapped. You know, I leave here, I lose my whole life, blah, blah, blah. I don't have much life experience with this stuff. You know what I mean? I can't talk as though I'm like a single mom working at Crystal, but I can sympathize, right? I don't just look at them like they're stupid. They got themselves into it. They can't get it out of it. I sympathize, and I can see, especially with all this KGC research, that it's pretty predatory. Even, you know, white people get caught up in it too, and they'll tell you black people are, you know, working fast food more than the other groups. They're eating it a lot more than the other groups. That's all targeted. That's I wouldn't have thought that when I started out this stuff. At the tail end of all this research, I'm pretty confident that it is a dysgenics campaign, or whatever the true word is. And yeah, that's not how I think about life. Like I don't spend much time empathizing with fast food workers, but in this case, I totally see it. And Shem, I guess, wants me to show my my empathy to you guys or whatever. But
it's worth looking at South America and how like tribes will not be able to get water. Like they'll make collecting rainwater illegal, and then you will have to buy water from Coca-Cola, right? I mean, they can. There's so many examples of going into South America, building these little colony empires, killing everybody, and turning them into the same indentured servants that Europeans and Americans have become. And I think we're just kind of used to it, and we forget about how much freedom is traded in that exchange. And it's just kind of hard to imagine like how much freedom people had around the world even recently, right? Until
well, they do the same thing over and over again with different groups of people or various time periods. That's why when you look at your shirt in America nowadays, it says
they did this, they did
coming
that.
from the guy who literally released a video calling, like pointing out the they. So shut up.
Actually, Longo's mom made this shirt for me. No, I'm
Like,
just kidding.
They make these promises to people like you're gonna make
Oh, it's
wages, now a better
open
life.
season now, Andreas. you just open a door that can't be closed.
I mean, it's the nicest shirt I have. It's not made in China. That's all I can say.
Definitely appreciate shout out to the chat. Unfortunately, we're ending this even though Spencer has a lot of knowledge about what's going on with modern law compared to this issue that we've started thanks to the Civil War and the foundation of the United States in 1871. But hey, 500 people watching, no big deal. Let's just end it for no reason.
What do you mean? No reason. You want me to go all
You
night?
gotta leave him asking for more, man. You gotta leave
Been
him
working
begging
all
for more.
day.
Great.
And
So have
now,
I've been working since. No, I don't want to say.
I
that.
know you
Fine,
have.
but-
I was on the phone with you.
Hey,
I never
but-
seen you two get so catty before. It's awesome. This is like
We're
a new
always
level,
kidding.
Shem. A new level, Shem.
No.
It's a great conversation. We have a lot of information to share.
All right,
But
fine. I'll go
let's just
smoke
cut-
some
let's just-
weed.
no, let's just cut it off.
Andreas
I
said he
have
wants to wrap it up.
I have
Yeah,
to
he's
do
gotta wrap it
I
up
have
too,
to do
so-
a show. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
say.
it's all good.
But I do want to do
We can keep it
another,
going.
and I think if I have to leave and you guys keep going, that's cool. But otherwise, like, let's do another one soon and hit me up, all three of you, and let's do more shows. Sounds like a thing. There's definitely more to talk about here. I really want to go into the Banana Republic. We could talk about the Telegram companies, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and all of that. I think there's more. There's definitely more to do. But this was a good chunk for people to like think about for a while.
Yeah, digest it. Make sure
That
make
That
sure
was
you
a good pun, Shem. A fast food digestion joke. I like it.
All right, Andreas, just when you're leaving, make sure you take all the little girls in the chat with you. Like, what's his name? Frizzleclits here, or whatever.
Pack up your flat earthers and leave. I see how it is, Longo. I see how it is.
Take your Disney shills and go.
Andreas, when you came on Old World Florida a long time ago and you guys pulled up the New Prussia map, that was the first time I saw it. In that episode, I think it was you pulled up a map and it showed a body of water from the Gulf of Mexico going to Canada. And you pulled up something similar again earlier. And I was studying David Wynn Miller at the time in quantum grammar shit. And literally he was just rambling about the Vatican and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, there's a body of water that goes from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada 2 miles below the Earth's surface. But they don't want you to know that. And I literally was like listening to that on this screen and you guys on the other screen. And I'm like, motherfucker, there's the map of it. Was like, and then I made an Instagram post of it and you're in it. And it was
that is a solid sync, man. Because that's the thing. If you can feel that resonance, you know they want it's something you're supposed to focus on. And yeah, I feel like that's a path that more people should be traveling up and down and seeing really like what is on either side of that great divide for sure.
Yeah. Primarywater.org. Look into it, guys. Primarywater.org.
Isn't that the guy who's been going crazy? I shouldn't say crazy. The guy who's been going viral for like going into
They clone Tyrone.
whatever. Yeah, let's wrap it up. They Clone Tyrone is a movie that I'd never seen. I'd been told to see it.
Oh, I saw it. It's good.
I've skimmed through it earlier today and yesterday. It's pretty dang terrible. It's a terrible movie.
I don't know. It's on. I think it's on the money though. I think they made it kind of bad so that people wouldn't watch it. But if you look at if you read between the lines, if you just read the script about what it's about, it's pretty much what's probably going on to an extent in certain circumstances. They've just made it seem kind of ridiculous.
The whole thing is about a fried chicken joint that's slowly poisoning, and worse, the black people in a certain area.
Oh, you're right. Completely ridiculous. You're right. You're right.
And it's the fried chicken has drugs in it. They're cloning people, replacing their brains. It's kind of like the Jordan Peele movie that he did. All these anti-white movies.
You see that YouTube
kind of
complete nonsense. We disavow it. Don't be upset at us.
Yeah. But They Clone Tyrone. Everyone was telling me. I had at least 10 people tell me, you've got to see They Clone Tyrone. When I told them I was making this video, when the video came out, everyone was saying, go watch They Clone Tyrone. It's like the same thing. And it's true. It pretty much is like a soft disclosure, breadcrumbing, Easter egging of this topic. Kingsman, Golden Circle, that's the same. I mean, look at that. KGC, Kingsman Golden Circle. That's another big Easter egg on this.
It's crazy. Like the
And-
fact that Golden Circle literally has a sequel called. I mean, the Kingsman has a sequel called Golden Circle, is nuts. Like that's literally the title of the movie. They want people. It's a nod that people should be looking into it.
Krispy Kreme, KK, Poppy's Diner, Poppy's Wendy. They indicate that she's the biggest drug lord
Around big
in the world and runs all these fast food chains. And
Like the European cartels in Colombia and El Salvador, right?
yep. And then another one is Harold and Kumar. What's kind of the third one in this?
Kumar.
Would be Harold
The
and
White
Kumar.
Castle. Guantanamo Bay or Escape from Guantanamo Bay?
Yeah, the second one. Harold
The
and
one where
Kumar.
they-
Guantanamo
the one
Bay.
that's
Well, think
like-
about it. Havana, Cuba,
That's right.
AGC capital, Lone Star capital. That's kind of where they start their journey, and they end up in the hands of the KKK. And yeah, interesting. But that's White Castle. You know, Harold and Kumar, the first movie is all about going to White Castle. The second one's Guantanamo Bay. And there's a whole bunch of other like Easter eggs in here. It's a very silly movie, very Hollywood movie, very
And as we talked about, when you went to the White House or when you went to Washington D.C., Cal Penn,
yes. Yep. Thank you. Good point. These are not just like random stoners. These
right? These are very strategically placed stoners.
that's Cal Penn with Obama.
Yeah,
Strategically
he
placed
works
stoners.
in the freaking government. Yeah, no, these are cabinet member. This is where propaganda and reality bleed together like no other, man.
This is
2008.
Kumar. Kumar, the hey dude, we're going to White Castle, dude. Pass me the joint, bro.
Don't worry. We have all of the PepsiCo security with us. The Secret Service was hired directly from PepsiCo, so we're safe. And all of the new logos for the Obama campaign from Pepsi, which owns
Harold?
KFC.
Kumar, would you mind coming over here, please? Kumar?
That's an under.
Pass
That's I
that
feel.
bank, please, Kumar.
If I had any regrets, it's that we didn't talk more about like the PepsiCo connection to the KFC to Obama, because the Obama administration was basically the PepsiCo administration. He hired everyone he could from Pepsi. Marketing, it's crazy, right? Like the Pepsi Obama connections are just wild, and that's
right.
Yum Foods, that's KFC, that's all of that.
It's George Lucas, dude. Pepsi 1, Star Wars Episode 1.
Totally.
Holy shit.
So, Brandon, if you could pull up our promotional little things here. If you go to, we're on Spotify now, guys.
Whoa!
Old World Florida
Hell yeah!
is going to be on Spotify from now on.
Wow!
So,
I'm jealous. I gotta get that together. Good job.
You'll be the first to get throttled there.
and then the next thing you can do, you can order yourself a copy of the Monad, guys.
Ooh.
Now here, I got a little clip here that we can play on the way out.
Is it beautiful?
But our distinguished guests here, we're going to wrap it up. This is such a good topic. There's so much to say. Of course, we can't fit it all in, but I hope we carved off enough. Shem, you guys know where to find him. You guys know his spiel. He's going to say something like, don't follow me. Don't follow me. Unsubscribe. Just like believe in yourself and like
Believe in yourself.
like they control everything. So like there's
No, what
point
I'm gonna
in,
say
like-
is es tut mir leid. Auf Wiedersehen.
That's funny. Arbeit macht frei, huh?
But subscribe from me.
Well, I have enough subscribers. Just start watching my videos, and that'll be cool. Thanks,
Mhm.
guys.
Well, that's the thing about those whatever, doesn't matter. I
Ooh,
forgot.
brain fire.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
we need more Illuminati symbolism with Thundercats, more Disney princesses. You're right. Less truth and just more softcore. Yeah, it's like that on YouTube now. I admit it. That's what they're trying to teach us, and don't listen. Basically.
Oh, and also Andreas, about that other Pepsi rabbit hole, the current head of Secret Service being the previous head of security for Pepsi.
Cheadle.
Yeah. And so, all right, Shem, you guys know where to find him. Tartarian Truth YouTube channel. Great stuff coming out of there. You got Spencer from Florida. Might be on TikTok, might not be. But
I'm on
Instagram, YouTube, you can get Spencer. And Andreas Xirtus, he's got a big old YouTube channel. Give him a subscribe. Hit his content up.
We do live shows, Think Tank. Watch it on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Woo on Wednesday. Come hang out.
Shall yeah. And then here, guys, while I've got your attention, go get a copy of The Monad. Okay? This is the newest release and the premiere release of Gallo Glass Books. This is...
It comes with a bookmark as well, not listed on the website.
Comes with a bookmark. This is a Neoplatonic compendium put together by my brother. It is 3 major Neoplatonists, Plotinus, Porphyry, Proclus. It's like 3 books in one.
The PPP, you know me.
This is the best translations. Thomas Taylor, vegetarian. He was a Neoplatonist himself. He was called himself a pagan, I think. He was a believer. Thus, he was...
Because he understands what paganism means.
Exactly. He wasn't scratching his head at a lot of this stuff. He knew what they were going for. He translated this. We're making it available to the people. That is like the price is so low. It's like 3 books in one. This is not available anywhere else like this. Some of these writings are very hard to find just by themselves. And this book, its introduction was done by Ken Wheeler of YouTube fame. So Ken Wheeler, VIP YouTube legend, he did the introduction. And yeah, good. The artists involved were, very talented. You can look at all the stuff they've done, but go get a copy of The Monad. That's a #1 way to support the channel right now. Another thing you can do, right? Well, Brandon, I've got a video of this, so we won't bore the people with all this.
Thanks for having me. Shout out to the chat. Peace out, guys.
See you, man.
Peace, Sean.
I gotta get set up for mine too, so I'll catch you on the flip, bro.
Andreas, thanks for joining, dude.
Good night, Andreas. Peace, bro. Good to be on here with you tonight, man.
God bless you guys.
Make sure that's not...
Make sure that's not what?
Where's that music? Make sure it's not copyright.
Oh yeah, sorry. That was in the background, my bad. Also, it's AI generated, so
Okay.
copyright free, but evil.
But also soul free. So, all right, guys, wrapping it up here. I've got a little video here, so pay attention, especially if you'd like to support the channel. I'm offering astrology readings. So Kirkwood, I'm going to get you here in the next couple of days, but taking applications, I guess. Reach out if you'd like a astrological birth chart reading. It's not some divination garbage. Not going to tell you how many kids you're going to have or whatever. This is a natal chart analysis / astrology lesson. So I'm offering that. You can DM me, hit me up on any of these platforms. We got a Patreon we're doing. My Patreon's up now. I've got a video that says most of this stuff, so I don't have to say it all the time now. But all right, everyone, you have a good night.
Here are a couple of ways you can support the channel.
Make sure to check out Florida's #1 metaphysical book and crystal store, The Dancing Elephant in Palm Beach County. You just might find me there at work. If you're not in the area, go use the code OWF at dancingelephant.shop for 10% off.
Monad is a compendium of philosophical writings by 3 major Neoplatonist philosophers, Plotinus, Porphyry, and Proclus. The most accurate and potent translations of the Neoplatonists were done by Thomas Taylor in the early 1800s, and we have made those translations available in a new hardcover edition, limited to 2,000 copies. This book is an 800-page hardcover behemoth featuring an introduction by the one and only Ken Wheeler, with cover art by Benjamin A. Vierling, and a frontispiece by Kuba Sokolsky. Copies can be purchased for a discounted price of $50 during our pre-sale, to be found at galloglassbooks.shop. Unleash your crown chakra with our 100% cotton Make Atlantis Great Again visors, available at oldworldflorida.myshopify.com. Shop Butterfly Pea Flower Tea and Shilajit with code OWF for 10% off at sipblue.com. Shop Organic Moringa with code OldWorldFlorida for 10% off at themoringaman.com. Join our Patreon for uncensored, ad-free content, patreon.com/oldworldflorida. Some of the music featured in this video was created by Dr. Longo, some of it was sourced from public archives, but a majority was composed by Rustin Gross, a multi-instrumentalist and professional musician residing in Palm Beach County, Florida. You can support Rustin by following him on Instagram, Rustin_Gross with an E, or visiting his website www.rustinmusic.com. Dr. Narco Longo. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Magic. Welcome to Florida, baby. Florida is the original Garden of Eden. Florida has the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world. Florida oranges are the golden apples of mythology. A race of giant men once roamed this peninsula. The Smithsonian can suck my balls. Florida is littered with many ancient megalithic ship anchors, known as Saxor